their soil. And that's the reason why, viewer, tonight on India Matters, we're going to talk about how India, the Indian government, the Indian system is already thinking about what happens if there is another provocation. It's a big day, in fact, today for air power after what has been a milestone month for the Indian Air Force. Starting 20 days ago, our fighter pilots pulled off a historic high-precision strikes deep inside Pakistan, destroying terror hubs and military air bases using their current fleet of fourth-generation fighter jets like the Rafale, the Sukhoi 30, Mirage 2000, MiG-29, etc. It was an unmistakable show of force, a declaration of what India's air power can achieve even without what we call stealth, the ability to be low observable, evade radar, and generally not come to the attention of enemy sensors. But now the government has done something perhaps even more significant for the long game. They had announced a big step forward in the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. I'm going to call it AMCA. India's long-anticipated fifth-generation stealth fighter program. If you didn't know that such a program existed, well, it does, and it's moving forward. And this time, for the first time ever, the government has thrown open the playing field, not just to state-run organizations like Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and the DRDO, but to private sector firms as well to bid for a chance to build prototypes of what could become one of the world's most potent stealth fighter aircraft. Now, this public-private competition marks a tectonic shift in how India does high-end defense manufacturing. It's a complete sea change from what we've always done. Defense manufacture has always been the monopoly of the Sarkari organizations. This time, for the first time, a combat aircraft could potentially be built in the private sector. Yes, we're still piecing together the full picture of the India-Pakistan air battle, but what's beyond dispute, viewer, is that Operation Sindoor dealt massive, calculated damage to Pakistan. Now imagine doing that with stealth fighters like the AMCA that are almost invisible to radar, harder to intercept, and capable of striking deeper and deadlier. That's the future that the AMCA that is moving ahead today promises. The pressure on India to acquire stealth aircraft has been mounting. China has unveiled so-called sixth-generation prototypes, has multiple fifth-generation fighters flying already in service, and is expected to, well, surprise, surprise, hand over some of these stealth fighters called the J-35 to Pakistan very soon. The air power balance in the region was beginning to look lopsided. Now that left India with two choices: import or innovate. Buy Russia's Sukhoi Su-57, which Moscow is practically begging to sell, or lean into America's F-35 Lightning II offer, which Trump had symbolically opened up to India earlier this year, right after taking over as president. But with India's own AMCA push, India has chosen neither the Russians nor the Americans. No Su-57, no F-35. This decision today by the Indian Ministry of Defense under Rajnath Singh and the government under Prime Minister Modi is a bold, confident message. Our next generation stealth aircraft will be made right here in India. It's a massive leap forward, and it signals that the next time India strikes an adversary from the skies, it won't just be with fury, it'll be with futuristic stealth. And to talk about what today's decision actually means, I'm joined by a former chief of the Indian Air Force who's been a bigger advocate, a bigger proponent of Made in India, Atmanirbharta, self-reliance, whatever you want to call it, than him. Air Chief Marshal Rakesh Kumar Singh Bhadoria, veteran fighter pilot, former chief of the air staff. Always a privilege and an honor to have you with us, sir. My first question to you: this is something that you yourself have personally advocated. Big decision by the Indian government today to open the playing field and get the private sector in on pushing India's stealth fighter aircraft project forward. Your opening words, sir.
No, I have seen this development today with great interest, and I think there was a lot of debate on this issue on AMCA in terms of participation of private sector along with the HAL, and there were many aspects of it which were debated at length. And I'm so happy that today the government has come out with this clear execution model wherein private sector would get equal participation or any level of participation that they desire, along with public sector, and in whatever model gets finalized. So to me, it's a huge leap of faith in terms of what the MOD has demonstrated their faith in the private sector to be able to take up such kind of project. And this is the top-end project that the industry is going to handle. So firstly, a huge development.
Yeah.
Secondly, now I see it as time for the private sector to come up and demonstrate their ability to deliver. This is something that they've been talking about over the last decade. They want increased partnership, they want level playing field, they want everything in terms of technology development and production. And here it is. So it is again, from industry perspective, a game changer, but also time for the private sector, for MSMEs and startups to get their act together and ensure that they deliver on this huge faith being reposed in them.
It's incredible, Chief Bhadoria. No private sector company has ever led the development and manufacture of a fighter aircraft. And today's decision by the Indian government in that way is a landmark one. How would you read that? What would, in your view, would be the ideal bid? A public-private partnership, fully private, fully public? What do you think?
If I understand what you're saying, I think that effort was initiated by DPSUs to look at BHL in particular, to look at private public private partnership model. There was some interaction with the industry, and that is totally at a different level and with a different mindset that it was addressed. And it all depends on how you state this problem and how you want to address it. Now it is a government diktat and a direction that the implementation model would be open to private sector and public sector or any form of consortium. And this is totally different. So I think this is the right way to do, wherein private sector gets to say their piece, absolutely in full. They can apply for it, or they can bid for it totally independently. Yeah. They can bid along with HAL. They can bid, make some sort of consortium, SPV, whatever. So it is different. Previously it failed for different reasons. Now there is no question of it not succeeding, because it is straight come from the government and it has just leveled the playing field. It has given them an opportunity that they never had.
Yeah. Incredible. I mean, and I really hope that unlike 5 years ago when I scooped this story, the private sector companies actually step forward and participate, because things are a little different this time. But Air Chief, my third question to you is, this decision comes just a few days after Operation Sindoor. We all saw the application of air power and the use of aircraft. Does that have something to do with this decision in your view, or is this separate because this project has already been progressing under its own steam for a while now?
Undoubtedly, it's a very clear signal that we will build our own. It's a very clear signal on the path to build our own, and it's also a clear indication of the faith of the government in terms of developing it indigenously and going on to this 5th and 6th generation technologies for the Indian Air Force absolutely indigenously. It's also a big statement for inclusion of private sector, I say again, at the cost of repetition, in the ecosystem of this change in a very big manner. And I think that is the way to go. It will make so much of a difference in terms of our industrial capacity growth and capability growth in the future. It is an absolute game changer in terms of what it will do for private and public partnership and synergies in defense production.
Do you think Operation Sindoor had something to do with this decision, Air Chief? I'm repeating that question because Operation Sindoor has just gotten over 20 days ago. We saw 4th generation fighter aircraft being used this time around. Any connection, or is this separate?
Uh, a lot of discussion on this matter had been going on, to the best of my knowledge. But let me first get back to what progress was taking place. The fact that this announcement was not made doesn't mean that in the last over 1 year after AMCA project was cleared, no work has happened. ADA has been fully into it in terms of design and development work that needed to go on. But this decision was important. It was under discussion. And now I think the relationship that you're drawing in terms of what China has done and what Operation Sindoor has changed in terms of how we look at this, how we look at AFR, and how we look at what is going to matter in the years to come in terms of long standoff capability, in terms of survivability in very, very contested environment. Therefore, the importance of stealth in terms of what kind of weapons you'll be able to use and in kind of what kind of air-to-air weapons that you need to have. In all these matters, and the importance of indigenous technology. How our air defense worked, which was largely based on indigenous core. How important is highly tech-oriented systems like S-400 Rafale to the entire game plan, to the BrahMos kind of precision equipment, to other standoff weapons that we had. So, importance of indigenous and this sudden decision on this announcement, I think are linked. The government is indicating how serious it is to energize the indigenous ecosystem in defense production, and have indicated a very clear show of faith in the system to be able to do this important step. This is not an easy decision to go on to private sector for aircraft like stealth aircraft. And I think this is, in terms of ability to depend on our indigenous production, a huge step.
Air Chief, the fact that China has tried to unveil its so-called sixth-generation fighters, they're going to be giving some of their stealth fighters to Pakistan very soon. That has, of course, added some pressure. But also, there is this question over what India's, Operation Sindoor might look like if stealth fighters are brought into the mix. What's your view on that?
Okay, in the moment you have the kind of contested environment that we have, and Pakistan having the latest in terms of technologies, while West is slowing down, China has supported through and through, absolutely, in terms of their latest technologies, both in sensors and weapons. Therefore, from sensors, from survivability point of view, stealth has become center stage in terms of any aircraft that is going to take part in combat or in offensive operations. Stealth is important to delay the detection and be able to, do the missions in a very hostile environment. So that's the best bet, to have a real stealth aircraft. The next, I think, issue is to have the right kind of weapons. Huge standoff ranges for air to ground, very precise, very, not vulnerable to GPS jamming, to other kinds of jamming. So very survivable in terms of the environment. So that is where these technologies will have a very good importance in what will go into fifth generation aircraft. And the next is air-to-air missiles. So air-to-ground, air-to-air, the kind of weapons, the kind of environment we have. From that perspective, this stealth aircraft development is important. Is this going to give us the only solution? No. Apart from this, I think we have to really develop on our efforts that we need to make on LRSAM kind of equipment. That is the S-400 equivalent that is into indigenous design and development. We need to go on to our networks and capabilities and encryption and ability to have safe networks as we go forward.
My final question to you, Air Chief, is a little bit on a personal experience level. You've been the Air Chief. You trained on different fighters. You've operated on different fighters. You've been on combat patrol missions on different fighters, and now you've got these stealth fighters that will be coming in a few years for a new generation of pilots. Give us a pilot's cockpit perspective of what it feels like, comparing what you trained on and what's coming up for the next generation.
Okay, what we trained on and what we started with was close combat, was attacking targets from close, were doing air to ground from close, and thereafter the sensors, the weapons, and the distances just kept increasing. So we are talking of combat which was anywhere from 300 meters to 2-3 kilometers away, and weapons being released at 1 kilometer distance from ground targets. And now we are at 200 kilometers plus ranges of striking ground targets, and 150 to 200 kilometers of striking air targets. So huge change as seen from the cockpit. But more importantly, I think a huge responsibility for the pilots in cockpit today to be very, very, updated and technologically very savvy, to be able to handle this kind of workload, which requires a lot of effort and knowledge in a networked environment, to handle this number of aircraft, to handle data from so many sensors, so many weapons, to handle data from not only coming from ground, in future from AWACS, satellites. Everything is going to be fed to the pilot, although in a much decision support system supported wise, be it AI, be it other decision support systems. So the pilot in terms of his capability and what he's expected to do is undergoing a huge change.
It's incredible always to have someone who's been such a big supporter of self-reliance, Air Chief Bhadoria, and I thank you for your time on an important day when a decision of this kind has been taken by the Indian government. But on the other side of this very short break, back here on India Matters, I'd like to tell you that the AMCA that we've been speaking about is going to be nothing if it is not powered by a fully Indian jet engine. And social media, no less, after Operation Sindoor, seems to have found a very big voice in this regard. That story is coming up next.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
गोल्ड प्लस ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रिफ्लेक्टिव ग्लास लगाओ, धूप की गर्मी को दूर भगाओ और बिजली का बिल भी बचाओ।
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong,
Right.
And transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Junkie brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold. We are direct. News Night, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
More news that matters.
Big exclusive. Tulsi Gabbard gunned down by Pakistan-backed cowards.
When you interact with people on ground, you're able to reflect their sentiments much better.
More debates that shake the system. More exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Not just another prime time. It's a prime time.
Before we headed into our break, we told you about India's AMCA stealth fighter program and how it's never going to come into its own unless it is powered by an Indian fighter aircraft engine. Well, for the last 48 hours, Indian social media has been ablaze with a war cry that started out as a humble tweet, maybe from a defense enthusiast, maybe a fan, but it's now a national roar. Fund Kaveri engine. On the surface, it's a hashtag, but just beneath and you'll find the beating heart of India's deepest military dependency. While India is a country that fights wars and wins them, the truth is this: not a single Indian fighter jet today, did you know this, flies with an Indian jet engine, because they do not exist. And that is a national vulnerability no amount of imported jets can hide. Experts have said it for decades: if you don't build your own fighter engine, you're permanently hostage to the timelines, tantrums and turmoil of foreign suppliers. India learnt that the hard way when delays in engine deliveries stalled the Tejas Mark 1A program for over a year. We still haven't received the first of those 83 aircraft, by the way. Warplanes sitting idle, not because we lacked pilots or missions, but because we didn't have American engines delivered on time. And so, Fund Kaveri engine isn't just a viral slogan or a hashtag. It's a strategic scream for self-reliance, for Indian skies to finally be powered by Indian engines. The Tejas fighter is being inducted in large numbers. The AMCA stealth fighter I just spoke about has been given a clear roadmap for execution. But let's be clear, without an Indian engine, even the best airframes are dependent assets. And time is not on our side, viewer. Yes, the original Kaveri engine developed by India's DRDO was found wanting, underpowered and not combat grade. It was rejected, but that doesn't mean the mission should be. If anything, Operation Sindoor has shown that India must fight the next air war with zero dependencies. We cannot afford delays, disruptions or diplomatic holdups when the enemy is on his knees or indeed at our gates. So whether it means public-private collaboration, foreign tech leverage or redirecting offsets from billion-dollar buys, the Indian government must see the soul of this social media trend. Fund Kaveri engine is about control. It's about independence, and most of all, it's about ensuring that the next Indian fighter jet that takes off with an intention to deliver hurt to our adversaries does so with Indian fire in its belly. And joining me live now is Dr. William Selvamurthy. He's president of Amity University. He's been a chief controller at the DRDO, which actually pioneered the Kaveri engine. Good to see you, Dr. Selvamurthy. Fund Kaveri engine is a nice war cry on social media, but it is a very serious issue, and Operation Sindoor has proven that we need to take it seriously, sir.
It's a matter of great satisfaction, joy, that DRDO developed indigenous weapon systems performed accurately, reliably in the Op Sindoor. So having served in DRDO for 40 years and then seen the evolution of these technologies, I was so pleased to see all the systems which were used to the satisfaction of the services, and it has performed very well. And I must compliment my own colleagues, scientists, fellow scientists, technicians, industries, academia partners who have contributed to this indigenous development. Now, coming to this light combat aircraft and advanced medium combat aircraft, these are very, very important complex technologies to develop Tejas, the light combat aircraft, with its 4+ generation fighter aircraft, with airframe being the composites, and also fly-by-wire, digital cockpit, and modern avionics.
Dr. Selvamurthy, the engine is the issue now. We have to focus on the engine. We have mastered everything else.
Right. actually the engine, which is the heart of the any fighter aircraft, is the most important component which we are dependent on another country like G404, which was powering our LCA, the Mark 1. Now we are looking at G414 engine. And then, but these are all important. Anytime they can cut off the umbilical cord and don't supply this engine. So all our aircraft will be lying idle. So it is very essential to invest in developing this Kaveri engine, which has reached a very high level of maturity. It's not a failure. We have learned the lessons. Now we have developed and brought to 70 kilonewton thrust, which is very important to power not only this, the unmanned combat aircraft, and you have also the naval marine system, which can be powered. So it's not, Kaveri engine not a failure, but we have learned to build a turbofan, the gas turbine engine for fighter aircraft. We have developed the tacit knowledge and technology prowessness to develop this up to this capability.
What do you, Dr. Selvamurthy, what do you think should be the path forward? Many different things have been tried, public-private partnership, foreign joint venture, doing it alone, Russian help, French help, etc. Nothing has led to any forward movement so far because no nation will ever share this technology. This has to be done in-house. Maybe the solution is to involve the private sector or, give up at least a part of the control of such a project.
India can do it. We have done it in many areas. In this Kaveri engine also, we will be able to build it, provided there is a critical investment, because this involves, one is investment, the other is the technologies, subsystems, components, devices, even turbo, that blades which you are using in this Kaveri engine is very critical technology. So I think we need to work as a nation, pool all our capabilities, technological capabilities available in the institute, academic institutions, research institutions, industries, and then invest adequately, because there is no critical investment being made in this Kaveri engine. Then also look for partners like SNECMA or even G404, G if is willing to partner with us in certain areas. So we are the Russian collaborations. We must look at all the possibilities so that one is the national pooling of talents and the critical investment from our side, both from government and if private sector is willing to invest, bring them on board, and also look for collaborators. Now the world is looking towards partnering with India. Unlike the earlier period, we can leverage our the market available today for other commercial trade. We can use that to leverage for critical technologies like for the Kaveri engine. So I would say that there are countries which are willing, have shown interest, and those partners we should also bring for the synergy. So then we will be able to achieve those where the critical gaps are existing in the knowledge of developing this.
But one thing is for sure, final question, Dr. Selvamurthy, one thing is clear to us in the wake of Operation Sindoor, that, we have good partners, we have some reliable suppliers, but in a country that may go to war at any time, we cannot take these chances. We have to have absolute accountability and reliability on supply and availability of something as critical as a military aircraft engine, sir. Therefore, we don't have a choice in this matter.
I completely agree with you, because this is the heart of a fighter aircraft is the engine. So if we don't have this, we have to depend on another country, which is security risk. The other one is each one costs $5 to $7 million US. That money goes out for each unit. So remember the cost of cash outgo, which is going to another country from where we import. So these are all, one is strategic importance, the other one is the economic importance. So with all this, we must invest. I'm sure, I'm so delighted and happy that the public is raising their voice and opinion in support of indigenization and Atmanirbhar Bharat. And I'm so grateful to all the people who are putting in the X and then all the media, social media, in support of this indigenous development of the engine for the fighter aircraft. And I'm sure government would have noticed it and given priority. They must attach a high priority. There must be a task force to ensure the timely completion. We should look at which are all the gaps, make strategies, building redundancy for those gaps to be filled, and then make strategies, we will be able to achieve, I can assure you to all the citizens, with the capability proven by DRDO that it is possible, and the technology prowessness of our industries and the Indian intellect, it is possible to develop it with the government patronage.
And I also echo your sentiment, and I thank you, Dr. Selvamoorthy, about the many DRDO products that have been part of this incredible campaign against Pakistan, whether it was the Akash, whether it was, parts of the BrahMos missile, whether it was the many sensors and radars, electronic warfare, jamming systems, the anti-drone systems. So we salute the scientists of DRDO, and we hope that the Kaveri can make a big comeback. Dr. Selvamoorthy, as always, thank you very much for being on India Matters. It's a wrap on this show. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you at the same time tomorrow. It's over now to my friend Maria, who's putting her spotlight tonight on IAS officers under attack.
Thank you, Shiv. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last word tonight. A BJP MLC in Karnataka has made a derogatory, insulting and a communal remark against a senior IAS officer. An FIR has been filed against Ravi Kumar for his controversial remarks. Remember, this is coming just few days after Supreme Court came down harshly and heavily against Madhya Pradesh Minister Vijay Shah. The court had also rejected his apology and had set up an SIT. Tomorrow is the day when the SIT will be submitting its report before the court. First, Colonel Sofia Qureshi becoming a subject of hate speech. And now, Kalburgi Deputy Commissioner Fauzia Tarannum being subjected to hate. The question we ask on the show tonight, no matter how distinguished, how strong, how powerful a woman may be, why is she a fair game? First a story, then I bring in the guests.
At a recent protest in Kalburgi, BJP MLC N. Ravi Kumar lashed out at the district administration, alleging bias against the opposition. But what drew outrage was his comment saying the deputy commissioner, a serving IAS officer, probably hails from Pakistan.
TCಯಾಗಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವರೇನು ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನದಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಅಥವಾ ಇಲ್ಲಿ IAS ಆಫೀಸರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. ಬಹುಶಃ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆಯನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ಅವರು ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನದಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೇನೋ ನಂಗೆ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ.
An FIR has now been registered against Ravi for these comments. Coming under fire, the legislator has claimed it was an emotional outburst and has apologized.
ने ऐसा बोल दिया, ऐसा नहीं बोलना था. भारतीय जनता पार्टी एक रेस्पॉन्सिबल सेंट्रल रूलिंग पार्टी होकर हमारे तरफ से ऐसा स्टेटमेंट आना ठीक नहीं है. मैं इसलिए मैं क्या इमोशनली बात किया हूँ उस पर मैं क्षमा मांगता हूँ.
The BJP, however, is accusing the Congress government of vendetta politics.
In a political speeches, many a times, leaders speak so many things. When they speak, one or two words here and there also will go. Is sometimes a person who utters the word, immediately if you take an excuse, so you have to leave it up. He is not told anything about atrocity words.
IAS officers, association, and a lot of officers met me this morning. They are shocked. A very clean, integrity officer, a woman. This is the respect they are showing to a woman officers. The government will take action, and I seek an explanation from the BJP president and the central ministers on this.
The Deputy Chief Minister has now asked the BJP to introspect on their statements. Despite an apology that came in from the BJP MLC, the politics over the matter continues. But the larger question here is, what is going to be done about the political decorum that needs to be maintained? And more importantly, is there going to be an end to the kind of ill treatment that's meted out to the bureaucrats by politicians? With video journalist Kumar, this is Deepak Bopana for NDTV.
And joining me on the show tonight, Dr. Lakshmi Ashwin is the spokesperson of the BJP. We have Bhavya joining us representing the Congress. We have Priya Chetty Rajagopal, prominent citizen and also a managing partner at Multiversal Advisory. Rashmi Samant is an author and activist. We also have Brinda Adige joining us as well. Priya, I'm beginning with you. The woman that we are looking at who has been subject to a hate speech, a communal, derogatory, insulting speech, is an accomplished woman. She is a senior IS officer. She is a deputy commissioner. And here is just another leader taking that liberty and making that comment. Why is it that men, particularly politicians, get away with what is evidently more than just an emotional outburst?
I have very little to say except express my disgust. Whether somebody apologizes or not is not material. I happen to know the officer in charge, and she is a wonderful woman, a wonderful officer. I've interacted with her when she was director of horticulture here, and she's a person with initiative, a lot of go-getting attitude, as a person who really looks not at just the job but creating impact. So for me, it was especially sad. I didn't know it was her, that this comment was made about anybody at all, but particularly about this particular IS officer who I happen to know and is a very, very competent and extremely focused person. I'd like to get back on the fact that it is so... Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Go ahead, Priya.
She's like, the speciousness of the argument. Let me just say, there are three things that we are born with, that we have no control over, but which end up making such a huge divide. One is the gender, the nationality, and your religion. These are three things that you don't have any control over. You don't have any choice. But it's what creates the divides that we really don't need. Let's look at the speciousness of the argument. I mean, today, because I am X, I am therefore Y. I look like this. My name is this. And today, with the kind of a number of different the intermarriages and everything. I mean, how can one even get into those kind of levels? The primacy of national and professional identity, and particularly an IS officer, first an Indian and a dedicated civil servant, her religion is irrelevant. And the Article 311 of the Constitution clearly safeguards civil servants from this arbitrary vilification and their right to dignity while serving the nation. Then this is this issue of dismantling this ridiculous religion equals nationality fallacy. Stupid, specious logic. I don't know where it comes from, but I was particularly appalled when it was used in the case of Colonel Sophia Qureshi, where she stood tall, dignified, standing for her country and standing for the military. How could this have happened? I mean, how could somebody even make a statement? Whether it was impulsiveness, stupidity, you can give any number of excuses that we say things in this. This is not acceptable. This kind of thing, I think, this kind of stereotypes also violate, the Article 14 and 16 of the Constitution, which is guaranteeing equality and non-discrimination. And I don't have to go into the number of wonderful people from the Muslim community who have just made our country shine, our state shine. I think that the IS Officers Association standing up for this is very, very good. And, I think they should in fact demand immediate attention under the IPC section 153A or 499. And political immunity cannot shield hate speech. Absolutely. The Legislative Council Ethics Committee must initiate disciplinary proceedings. Sorry is just not enough, because you're setting a precedent for accountability. And once this happens, I think it will set a clear precedent for other people not to do this. And there should be severe action, because you've got to make an example. You really do. And as I said, I happen to know Fawzia, and I really feel so sad this has happened. And this has also been a systematic pattern of targeting minorities, whether, you look at Colonel Qureshi's, Muslim identity being used as a weaponized to question her loyalty during the tensions. I mean, we get a situation where we're reducing a minority or a set of people to perpetual outsiders.
Absolutely.
And that is,
I agree with you, Priya. You have made some very, very valid points, and perhaps, on this all-women's panel, we are expecting more such direction to come as to how, there has to be a more collective effort to what has been some kind of normalization of hate speeches which are being made against women, no matter where they are, in what position or authority they are. Before I bring in the politicians, I want to understand from you, Brinda Adige, as well. I'm looking at what and how dignified IS officer Fawzia Tarannum has been in her comment. She says, I would rather let my work speak for itself. Let me focus on getting things done. That's been the attitude of women whenever they have faced, questions or in general, when it is not about their work, but they become subject of their identity first. Gender, religious, caste, all these identities playing out.
Absolutely. And as a woman, the intersectionalities of caste, of gender, of religion, they are born much more deeper by women. Like you pointed out, the DC of Kalburgi.
Brinda, your audio. Brinda, there is a problem with your audio. Okay. Okay, there is a problem with the audio. We'll fix it. Rashmi, in the meanwhile, would you come in?
Well, Maria, I definitely feel like, today in the 21st century, we finally have women in services, women actually breaking stereotypical roles, and actually breaking glass ceilings. And such comments are actually very disparaging. And it puts it puts the entire sort of leap and progress that we've made on the back foot. So I think it's not called for, and that people need to be more sensitive and more aware of the sort of comments that they make about actually very upstanding and high achieving women who are actually breaking stereotypes, who are breaking social norms, and setting up an example for generations to come.
So, Brinda, continue, please.
Yeah. So like you were mentioning, Maria, the gender intersectionalities, religion, language, and that you're a woman. There is no, the politicians often find women as easy target. It's not fair game. They assume that they are easy targets and they will not get back, nothing can happen to them. And being public servants, we must understand politicians rule the roost. They can transfer her tomorrow. And even though his party is not the ruling party, he has enough pull and clout to ensure that. And that is why I think people in the services do not want to talk back or retort back or ask questions. But because they are public servants, it becomes our responsibility, and more than that, the responsibility of the party to ensure that this kind of behavior is not accepted. They've continued to accept this kind of behavior. He might apologize now, but his mindset is the same. He's going to do the same thing day after tomorrow somewhere else, because for him, it is spreading that hatred without consequences, and so that impunity continues. There is nothing at stake for him. Nothing. It is 2 days down the line, nothing has happened. His party leader has not come out and condemned this man. He comes and says sorry because his party leaders would have pulled him up. But why are these people continuing to be there? How can they call themselves as representatives of the people in mother of democracies? How is it that they behave in such irresponsible, obnoxious manner when they are being voted into power by the people? It is because no consequences. And that, if a common man had done it or a common woman had said this, would there not be an FIR registered on that person immediately?
So, only recently the Madras High Court drew a line where they said very clearly that any kind of, statement being made by a politician against a woman will be seen as hate speech. So, keeping that in mind, there has to be much more than just an FIR against this MLC. But what about action being taken from the party? Dr. Gowda, will the BJP take any action against him?
And first, I would like to make one comment that I'm also being a bureaucrat. I'm a former bureaucrat. I know that bureaucrats should maintain utmost neutrality, utmost political anonymity, and all. The civil services conduct rule says that bureaucrats should be away from the politicians, then they do not show any political affiliation or inclination. But what's happening in the today's world and what has happened in Kalburgi district, I'm sorry to say, both the district administration and also the police administration have listened to the diktats of Mr. Priyanka Karge. This is highly condemnable. And I was also there, this particular MLC who has made the remarks about this female DC, I was also there in this function, and he was referring to Mr. Priyanka Karge. What is Priyanka Karge to, after he has held Mr. Chalwadi Narayana Swamy? He is not a common person. He is the leader of opposition in Vidhana Parishad. For more than 6 hours, both DC and SP didn't do anything about it. They have just paid the silent lip service. They didn't do anything. The role assigned to them
on the conduct of a IS officer here. My limited point is, if there are issues in her neutrality, should that be subjected to this kind of public humiliation?
No, I also strictly condemn the remarks he has made about it. But at this point of time, I would like to make one comment that these congressmen in Karnataka state are really obdurate and they callous that they have made such a bad remarks about our honorable Prime Minister. That too, when we are at the juncture post-Operation Sindhu. They have suspected Operation Sindhu. They've compared our honorable Prime Minister to a poisonous snake. When the entire world is enchanting Modi ji's name, when the entire world is praising our diplomatic prowess, our army mighty, and more than everything, the most precisive, legendary and visionary leadership of Mr. Modi. Are they not ashamed of themselves? They speak against Operation Sindhu. They express their suspicions against the Operation
No, but why
Sindhu.
should a woman IS officer be caught in this crossfire between the BJP and the Congress and their views on Operation Sindoor? What does she have to do with it?
I wanted to make a context. See, in that context, he has expressed those remarks. Priyanka Karge was comparing Mr. Modi to a poisonous snake. In retaliation to that, Mr. Chalwadi Narayana Swamy has compared himself to dog. As a result of which he was held in a captivity for more than 6 hours. For that, both SP and DC have listened to Mr. Priyanka Karge. They didn't do any official duty they were supposed to do. They have shown their political inclination to the Congress dispensation. That is condemnable. As a result of which we had to have Kalburgi.
So you are, ma'am, essentially justifying the comments which have been made by N. Ravi Kumar.
I'm not justifying.
This is the only way you justify it.
For whatever the comments he has made, he will be punished, and he will be, if he is guilty, he'll be punished. I am saying the present DC hasn't shown the political neutrality. She has shown the inclination to Mr. Priyanka Karge and also both SP and DC. That is what I am saying.
Okay, then in that case, it's all right for Fawzia Tarannum to be subjected to this kind of hate speech by a BJP MLC. That is the view of the party. Let's bring in Bhavya.
I'm not substantiating his remarks.
Ma'am, you just did that.
Even the DC is guilty. Even the DC is guilty. He is guilty.
So what has he said against the
remarks?
Can I?
No, guilty
okay, Bhavya, please come in.
It's utterly disappointing that in a 6-member panel full of women, I expected all of us to unanimously condemn such a derogatory remark made by a man against a very competitive woman, a high achiever. Her mistake, according to you people, belonging to a religion. Because we have 2 points, 2 commonalities we need to understand. The MP minister belonged to BJP. This particular man, the MLC, belonged to BJP. And the 2 women, both of them officers, one in Indian Army, a colonel level army officer, and an IAS officer. Very competitive women. The common thing was they both belong to Muslim community. Lakshmi Ashwin, I'll tell you what.
The Congress party.
The problem with the party is your ministers, your MLAs, your MLCs are competing in creating this communal hate. They're competing in it because you as a party did not take any action against the BJP minister who called Colonel Sofia Qureshi as the sister of Pakistan. What did you do? I think this is the culture of BJP. Anyone who abuses women are rewarded and never punished. We have seen that in Unnao. A rapist was a BJP MLA until Supreme Court had to come, intervene and ask this BJP to throw him out of the party. Until then, you were okay with a rapist sitting as an MLA. This can't be worse than that, of course. Right? But to call women officers as Pakistanis, you really think it is acceptable, and you are saying the DC was guilty? If she is guilty, there are ways to deal with it. Not call her a Pakistani in front of thousands of people. What are you even saying? How dare you say that on a national television? That she was guilty, so she will be called a Pakistani? You're not supposed to say that as a national party spokesperson. I think it was your job to set things right in your own party by apologizing on a national channel instead of blaming a competitive officer only because she belonged to a community, a religion.
You know, this
is not
kind
acceptable.
of...
Trust me, today it's her. Next, it will be one of the 6 of us here.
It can be anyone, Dr.
If we
Gowda.
let these men get away with this,
since you
it
also
might be
said...
one of us here, sitting here,
Dr.
one
Gowda,
of the 6 of us.
Bhavya, one moment.
Maybe we all belong to whatever community we are, Hindus
Bhavya,
or whatever.
one moment now,
that
please.
doesn't mean we will be spared. Now it is Muslim women. Next it will be Hindu women. Maybe someone belonging to your own party. Don't let these men get away with this.
Dr.
At
Gowda,
least condemn on a national television.
A former IAS
It's
officer
important.
yourself, you certainly would understand that this is not to do with neutrality alone. The fact that a leader thinks that he can get away by doing some kind of religious profiling here, also an indication of a mindset.
They're competing with each other.
So I think the larger question here should be asked that he could say such a thing only because she was a woman and a Muslim. What about the other officers? No such statement have come against any of them. And if he was so mightily upset with her conduct, then he should have filed a complaint.
Exactly.
That there is a process that could have been followed, rather than humiliating her, indulging in this kind of phobia in public.
These Congress leaders are so pathetic that they are unnecessarily making this issue so much communal and regional.
Unnecessarily?
The MLC
This is not acceptable. Not as a woman.
Absolutely.
You should not be saying this.
One moment.
Condemn this unanimously.
Let her
This is
finish
a
her
national
point.
television.
Why are you condoning?
Poisonous snake. Look at their morality.
You're making a big issue out of it. You think you can get away by calling an officer as a Pakistani? You think
It is a
not
big issue. You call an officer, you are an elected representative, you call an officer Pakistani, and you're saying don't make a big issue of it?
I can't believe
How
this.
can you be so derogatory?
Can I talk now?
What about parliamentary language that you have taken a vow and an oath to uphold?
Ma'am, let her speak, please. Let her speak, Dr. Gowda.
DC belongs to a
Go ahead.
Muslim community. Do you know that? This MLC didn't even know. I talked to him personally. He has told me that this officer seemed to be a very much good officer and an efficient officer. And I know personally. The thing here is, it's not about the religion. It's about their conduct. Being an officer, being an IS officer.
So what was her conduct which made him call her a Pakistani?
To the Congress government.
What was the whole point of
impartial.
bringing Pakistan in Gulbarga?
Partisan behavior.
Gulbarga
Partisan
administration, what has Pakistan got to do with Gulbarga's
I am not
administration?
substantiating MLC's remarks. For that, SIT has been formed. It will take
All
its
I'm
due
saying
course
is,
of action.
what has
Due course of
Pakistan got
action.
to do
Can you
with
shut your
Gulbarga's
mouth? Can you
administration?
listen to me?
Please,
It's
Bhavya.
okay, shut your mouth,
Bhavya.
listen to me. And you
I
guys,
think we
you
can
pathetic
extend
people
that
call our
courtesy to
honorable
another
Prime
woman on the
Minister
show
poisonous snake.
when she is
That
speaking.
too when we are at the junction of Operation Sindoor. You guys are so pathetic. Your mental condition is so low. You guys having moral turpitude. You listen to me. You guys are so
You're
pathetic.
talking about moral turpitude.
I'm not here to substantiate Mr. MLC's remarks. I'm here to say what has happened. These are all the facts I'm putting forth. You guys you Congress leader call our honorable Prime Minister poisonous snake. Are you not ashamed of yourself? And the entire world is prizing Operation
So you're
Sindoor.
justifying calling this officer
It's
as a
precision.
Pakistani?
Our legendary and visionary leadership of Mr. Modi. You
But we have seen.
pathetic Congress leaders, you
We have-
callous, You obdurate Congress leaders call him
Okay, I think I'll go back to Priya now.
Shame on you.
Priya Rajgopal, of course, this
May
is
I
becoming...
please come in, Maria?
Okay.
Maria, can I please
Okay,
come
Brinda,
in?
30 seconds and then I'll go to Priya.
We are not supporting him. If at all if he is guilty, he'll be punishable. SIT has been formed. Yours government is there. But the leaders in Congress dispensation have chosen to speak Mr. Modi a poisonous snake. And the entire world is admiring.
Okay.
You want me to talk about what our lady has called
May I please?
He called Sonia Gandhi as
Yes,
just
let's have
a
Brinda and Priya on screen now, please.
Yes, may I please share my views,
Priya
please?
only on screen now. Yes, go ahead, Brinda.
Yeah, madam, two wrongs do not make a right. You cannot argue that a tit for tat is what is correct. It does not justify it. What we are discussing just now is a officer, a sitting serving officer being vilified, hatred being spread, names being called by an elected representative who is representing an entire constituency over there and has promised to uphold parliamentary language. Dignity and respect comes from there. There is no charity that he's giving to anybody. It is his duty to speak with respect. If he was upset or angry with her or he felt he has been shortchanged, he must follow the rule of the law. Register a complaint, follow the process, and wait for it to come to court. He cannot speak like this as if he's entitled to call her names simply because she's a Muslim. That is unacceptable. He would not have done this to another officer of another religion, or for that matter, even if that officer was a man. So this kind of shaming women, insulting and humiliating is unacceptable.
Anybody's conduct you don't like and that person happens to be from the minority community, very easy comment is go to Pakistan. Priya?
Yes, I think the comment would have been completely outrageous whether it had been made to a woman or a man. I think the gender is not really an issue here. It's an additional issue because we feel it, and all of us feel it much more. I'm actually appalled by the fact that we've again politicized something which I think needed to be just addressed straight on as an issue which was wrong, which was inappropriate, unconstitutional, and needed to be addressed. These kind of attacks erode trust in our institutions and they really demoralize civil servants. You can see somebody like a Fauzia who's extremely dignified and very quiet in the way she's handling this. And I think that's the right thing. We should allow them to operate without fear of identity-based hostility like this. And politicizing the officer's identity is a worry for me because she could turn again into a pawn in partisan battles, which further affects public perception. At the end of it, she will come across as a victim, which I don't think she is at all. There is a role of judiciary and media at this point, Maria, which is there's intervention where I think we should propose that the Supreme Court take suo motu cognizance to curb these kind of hate speech against anybody. And in this case, public servants, which we reinforce constitutional morality. Media has a role, in terms of reporting, as you said, very factually, and making sure it doesn't become a political thing of he said, I said, which is so nauseous to hear. The long-term structural reforms, the moral code of conduct to penalize hate speech by politicians is needed during and beyond elections. The mandatory sensitivity training for lawmakers on constitutional values and diversity is long pending. It is not being done with the penalty clause that it's needed to do. A bipartisan resolution in Parliament condemning these kind of attacks on civil servant and armed service personnel, because this is what has happened most recently, and it's very, very condemnable. I mean, the one with Colonel Qureshi just brought me to such on my knees with shame, saying, is that how you look at somebody who's standing proudly on behalf of a country? And the solidarity which is needed from senior bureaucrats, military leaders, and cross-party leaders to isolate such perpetrators and reassure minority officers is required. And thankfully, it's already happening. We should have, and we have an independent body to address grievances, but we should be giving it teeth. Now, this person can't just get away with saying, I'm sorry, because not only did he make a statement, but the crowd applauded. Imagine a person who's served their community as a district commissioner, no less, being isolated in something like this. In conclusion, I would say that our strength has been always in our pluralism, in our institutional integrity. By demeaning public servants or anybody else based on religion, it's not just an insult to us as individuals. It's also an insult
to the steel frame of India that we have celebrated for so many years. The steel frame of India has been ashamed by this comment which has been made against Fawzia Taranum. Thank you so much for joining us, all the ladies here on NDTV's Last Word. With that, it's a wrap from me. Vishnu is right here in the studio.
Thank you very much, Maria. When we're looking at the crisis at Ranthambore National Park, it's a huge problem. The habitat of the tiger going down, but we'll also be looking at broader themes. We'll be joined by Ian Bremer on the situation between India and Pakistan. In his eyes, has tension increased or gone down after India's strikes on Pakistan and their terrorist camps? Good evening, welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the programme tonight, the Supreme Court has issued a stern warning to the Rajasthan government, threatening contempt proceedings over illegal mining activities in the Tiger Reserve. The court has hit out at the state for failing to curb mining despite a 2017 ban, endangering the park's biodiversity and tiger population. The bench, led by Justice Gavai, demanded immediate action and compliance with environmental regulations. The development underscores the ongoing tension between conservation and industrial interests in one of India's premier wildlife sanctuaries. Also on the program, is the subcontinent a more dangerous place post the military exchanges between India and Pakistan? Ian Bremer joins us for a special interview. And finally, the editor of Foreign Policy, Ravi Agarwal, joins me as we look at the situation between Russia and Ukraine, with President Trump calling Putin mad for continuing with his military action against Ukraine. The Kremlin says Trump was getting emotional. But where does this leave Ukraine and Russia and the prospects for the end of the war? A quick look at the headlines. An exclusive interview with Omar Abdullah, the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister. After a key meeting of his cabinet, Omar Abdullah says he's waiting to welcome tourists back to various parts of his state. The Prime Minister's strong message: eradicate terror, it is a thorn. He tells people about Operation Sindoor and why India is now in Atmanirbhar mode.
अब हम कोई विदेशी चीज का उपयोग नहीं करेंगे.
Minister Dharmendra Pradhan is at an NDTV conclave. He clears the air on the new education policy. He says states are not being forced to teach Hindi. A shocking murder in Bengaluru. A man is killed in a major sword attack. But first, our top story. The Supreme Court has issued a stern warning to the Rajasthan government, threatening contempt proceedings over illegal mining activities in the Tiger Reserve. The court has hit out at the state for failing to curb mining despite a 2017 ban, endangering the park's biodiversity and tiger population. Let's take a look at this report.
A man petting a tiger cub inside the Ranthambore National Park. This video soon went viral, only to be followed by another video where a visitor can be seen sauntering around in the park as a tiger drinks water from a pond in the background. These videos sent shockwaves, leaving the Forest Department red-faced. The Forest Department ordered an inquiry into these incidents, but there has been no action against the culprits seen in these videos. Ranthambore has recently been in the news for all the wrong reasons. On April 16th, a 7-year-old pilgrim who was visiting the Trinetra Ganesh temple inside the park was snatched away while he was walking back from the temple with his grandmother and killed by a female tigress. On 11th May, a ranger was similarly mauled to death. The same tigress who killed the 7-year-old boy sat with the ranger's body for 20 minutes before being shooed away. The tigress, called Kankati, suspected of having become a man-eater, was finally caught when she strayed out of the park and went inside a resort outside the national park a week ago. Stone mining around Ranthambore National Park is a cause of concern and has been flagged by environmentalists. The centrally empowered committee has also testified that the allegations of mining and movement of vehicles around the park have some substance. There are 79 tigers in Ranthambore. 24 tigers, 25 tigresses, and 30 cubs. And with so many tigers in one place, territorial fights are also becoming common. Recently, MLA from the area and Minister Kirori Lal Meena was also seen lambasting officials at Ranthambore for mismanagement. Clearly, these concerns regarding the country's premier tiger reserve have now reached the top court. In Jaipur, Harsha Kumari Singh, NDTV.
Harsha Kumari Singh, our correspondent in Rajasthan, joins us. Harsha, you've been tracking the problems and what ails Ranthambore for a very long period of time. As a result of the crisis that we now see, whether it's from illegal mining or too many people visiting the park, is the tiger population becoming unsustainable in a sense?
Well, yes, definitely. You know, the fact is that there's 400 plus square kilometers of tiger reserve in Ranthambore. It's literally bursting at the seams. Tigers, especially young males, need their own territory. Now, this is what is leading to territorial conflicts in tigers, but the problem is the tiger corridor. The tiger corridor from Ranthambore to, say, Mukundara or to Ramgarh Visthari is not entirely safe. There are a lot of
problem. The other problem which the Supreme Court has taken note of and which the Centrally Empowered Committee has said, that there is mining that is going around, not only near Ranthambore but also near Sariska, on the periphery, not exactly in the buffer zone, but in areas that could actually disturb the wildlife. The mining mafia, in fact, in Rajasthan is somewhat more perhaps dominant than the law enforcement agencies. So we regularly keep reporting instances where the mining mafia attacks the forest department, it attacks the police patrol. In fact, the NDTV also had to file a complaint because they also attacked one of our reporters in Jhalawad. So it's not just Ranthambore, but the government has ordered a crackdown on mining and they still haven't been able to rein them in. That's definitely another problem in Ranthambore. And of course, the other issue is very clearly the fact that the tiger, that the reserve is also, sort of dealing with other issues. For example, issues like laxity. How come people are roaming around inside and taking selfies with animals? So that's another issue. And, when tigers come close to human habitation or come very close to the human population, then we see the kind of conflicts that we've seen. Of course, the most extreme is, of course, the conflict where you saw those two people who unfortunately lost their lives. But it's not good for man or animal to come into too close proximity. And that's what's happening in Ranthambore. So all this and more is something that the Supreme Court will perhaps be looking at more closely and definitely directions to the Rajasthan government, which will hopefully make a difference in that very premier, very beautiful tiger reserve that is Ranthambore.
Harsha, thanks very much for joining us. We're also joined by some of the most eminent tiger specialists in the country. Sunayan Sharma, former director of the National Park at Bharatpur, Dr. Anish Andheria, president of the Wildlife Conservation Trust, someone I've spoken to for years at length, Dr. Dharmendra Khandal, conservation biologist at Tiger Watch, and Raghuveer Singh Shekhawat, additional PCCF, retired former field director at the Sariska Tiger Reserve and a deputy field director at Ranthambore. Thank you all very much for being with us. Dr. Andheria, one aspect of the problem, and there are several, is human beings and the tigers coming right next to each other. So in May this year, a tiger killed a forest ranger. Again in May, there was a man who was making a video petting tiger cubs. In April this year, a tiger killed a 7-year-old, and in November 2024, locals killed a tiger after an attack. Why is this happening?
So there are multiple things here, and there are multiple issues, and so people are mixing them. We have to understand that most of our tiger reserves are surrounded by very high human density, and there are no walls that keep wildlife away from people, which means that at any point in time, if you're looking at even the core, in case of Ranthambore or buffer zones, there are several villages that are either abutting or actually inside the buffer zone of tiger reserves, which means that there is always a possibility of interaction between wildlife and people. So when you see a person taking a selfie or when you see a tiger being patted upon, it is largely because there are people who are walking through the forest. In the core, there is restriction on movement. But in buffer zone where there are villages, people do walk around and therefore you will keep seeing such things. So that, of course, can be controlled by reprimanding people who are caught on cameras, and therefore action has to be extremely swift. The other important thing is when you have a high density tiger population, that population needs to be connected with other good quality tiger habitats. And Rajasthan has done exceedingly well in declaring new tiger reserves. Initially, there were only about 2 tiger reserves in Rajasthan, Sariska and Ranthambore. Now you have multiple tiger reserves. However, just by declaring them, and if they are islanded, which means they are not connected to Ranthambore in a secured manner, this natural movement of sub-adult tigers and all male tigers, when they start reaching an age of 24, 22, 24, 30 months, they move. And when you don't have good quality corridors, those tigers get into conflict. Either they are poached by people who live in the villages because they are not able to move rapidly in the night, or they will come back. And when they come back, already in a population where there are so many other tigers, you are bound to have skirmishes with people because these smaller animals, younger animals, are pushed towards the periphery in substandard habitats where they come in direct contact with people. And so these two things, and finally, I would say, so when I talk of corridors, we have to remember that just by declaring a corridor, the corridor doesn't become functional.
Right.
You need to make sure that no mining happens within the corridor and within the ESZ, that is eco-sensitive zone around protected areas. There should be the linear infrastructure that keeps coming, and the country is building roads at a very fast pace. We need to mitigate those structures. There are some highways that radiate out of Ranthambore, and they have been mitigated, but we need to do it at a much more scientific manner. Canal systems, all those linear infrastructures, power lines, mining, canals, roads and railways, they have to be mitigated. Corridors have to remain intact. There has to be natural movement of these kind of large
Anish, I get the
carnivores
points
from
that
one
you're
forest to
making.
another.
Let me go across to Sunayan Sharma. I will reflect on everything Anish said, but just on the entire issue of tourists in close proximity to tigers, you know, I mean, the video was ridiculous. Somebody petting, you know, cubs inside a tunnel or whatever it was, you know, a pipeline. Who is responsible for this, and why can this not be enforced?
Well, as far as the Ranthambore is concerned, the chief problems are 2, 3. Firstly, the pilgrimage. If you want to treat the pilgrimage, there is only one way in my eyes, and that is to introduce the aerial ropeway system. That aerial ropeway system can take care of that, otherwise it will not be possible. Secondly, the overpopulation of the tigers. Everybody wants to, it is only because the tiger tourism is taking the toll of everything. It is a byproduct. Tiger tourism or the wildlife tourism is only a byproduct. The basic thing is the conservation of the wildlife. We have made the byproduct as the main product and the wildlife conservation as the second. That is to be looked into in the right perspective. Kaveri has said very rightly, you have to understand these things clearly, otherwise it will not be possible. As far as the corridor making is concerned, as an idea, it is an ideal thing. But he is very right. It's very difficult in the present day situation because a lot of townships and whatnot, industries, roads, whatnot have come in between. So it will not be possible. What is possible, you have to treat that first.
Okay.
There is a serious lack of the staff. We must have adequate number of staff. There is a very serious lack of this understanding. The excessive tourism, the aggressive tourism has not spared any place for your wildlife.
Yep.
Now, tiger is what? Tiger is a ferocious animal. What you are doing? You are growing the tiger from all the sides by your gypsies. You are understanding that, and you are spreading a message through your videos that tiger is not at all dangerous. But my dear sir, it is very, very dangerous. It is a ferocious animal. And the moment you come out of your gypsy, tiger can differentiate between you and you sitting in the gypsy. You sitting in the gypsy is a part of the gypsy, where when you are on the ground, you are yourself only. And that is very easy to be attacked by the tiger.
All right.
Why should not the tiger take you away? It is its domain.
Right.
You should not be
points over
at
there.
all
Let me
alert.
just
And
go
that is
across.
why you see.
Sir, one sec. Let me go across to Dr. Dharmendra Khandal as well. Sir, in Ranthambore, the other issue is of illegal mining. This is what the Supreme Court is looking at now. Is it your belief that there has been a sustained effort at looking away to illegal mining in that area?
Ranthambore is a long strip of forest. It's almost 170 kilometer long strip of forest, and width is hardly 10 kilometer average width. So there are around 300 villages on the periphery of Ranthambore. The population is very high inside the forest. There is a very high density of animals. But the demand of stone for the construction material, all these things is very high. So there are many places where illegal mining is going on inside the park, and it is increased in last 10 years. Most of the sites are just adjoining to the villages. There are few points are very close to Savai Madhopur city, where the demand is very high of the stone, especially stone construction stones. So yeah, they turn into mafia, and even the government construction, they are using the same material. So we need some alternative sites. Even the forest department using the same stone. Even the hotels using the same illegal stone. This is the situation is going on, and it is all the trolleys, tractors going in the front of the DFO office. It is passing through various range office and chokis of the police. So this is the situation. Nobody can stop. Only Supreme Court. So we have high hope from the Supreme Court. If they can stop, this is a wonderful. Otherwise, there is no hope from the local authority. They are not capable to stop this mining thing.
Okay.
Second is the pilgrimage. There are 350 pilgrimage sites inside Ranthambore. And in the last 10-15 years, they are growing like nothing. Every pilgrimage site increased their structure, their capacity to hold people. They are now using lights. They have a power connection. They have now generators. Now they are doing music and things inside regularly, and these pilgrimage sites turning into picnic sites. So people from city areas, they are going there, they are staying there, and this is happening. And second, the problem is our old foresters now, they used to go in the field like Sunen Sharma and Shekhawat ji, I know very well, both of them. And now the officials are like, they are fixing things from the office. This is not possible. They have to go in the field. Our field director is wonderful, but he is not going in the field. 50% of the tiger reserve, which is called Kaila Devi, he visited hardly 2 times or 3 times. This is not the possible to save tiger Ranthambore. So we have to fix everything. And
all right, lots of problems over there. Let me in fact go across to Mr. Shekhawat. Mr. Shekhawat, there's obviously a rising tiger population, which is what Project Tiger has been all about. We've got substantial numbers in Ranthambore itself, and yet this clash between human beings and tigers is obviously just increasing because human beings move into areas which are the wildlife habitat, but the number of tigers is also sort of growing. What is the way out of this?
Yes, you are right. Actually, in Ranthambore, as the tiger number is rising because of the habitat inside, especially the national park area, is very good and very conducive for the breeding of tigers. But at the same time, if you look to the entire tiger reserve of Ranthambore, it is spread over an area of more than 1,200 square kilometers, which also includes the Kaila Devi Wildlife Sanctuary and adjoining areas. These areas
There are a lot of villages. It's highly human-dominated landscapes. About 300 villages on the periphery, many villages inside the core area. These serious issues have to be addressed as soon as possible to make available tiger more in violate spaces, because the existing population of 80 tigers, I personally feel, is not a problem for the entire landscape of the tiger reserve, which is about 1,200 square kilometers of the core area. And also the government has come up recently with declaration of the Ramgarh Vishtari Tiger Reserve, which is also in proximity to this tiger reserve, and Dholpur Tiger Reserve, which is also in proximity, and the total landscape can accommodate not less than 200 tigers, according to me, provided we act intelligently and we have to act timely. We have to take people into confidence. A lot of measures have to be taken up. The management plan or the conservation plan, tiger conservation plan, has to be updated accordingly to meet the present exigencies. Right now, what is lacking is the protection infrastructure is very weak. The foot patrolling is very weak, and the liaising with the people, peripheral people, is also too weak. As a result,
all right. So lots of these reasons as a result of which there's a problem. Just 1 second, gentlemen. I just need you to sort of keep your answers short so that I can get more questions in. Dr. Anish Andheria, we are running short on time. What is the solution over here given these problems? For example, the Supreme Court has suggested, I mean, it's an open suggestion that central forces perhaps need to be brought in. Some would suggest that that would be disastrous because forest rangers offer a very special skill set, which is what you need, in operating in places like this. But if we have a law and order issue, which is primarily the concern, then what else do we do?
So, see, Ranthambore is is not at all cash starved. Ranthambore has good amount of money. It generates more money than any other tiger reserve from tourism alone. Okay, so there should be no excuses, and the money that is generated out of tourism is ring fence. It goes to that particular tiger reserve. It can also go to other tiger reserves, but the first user can be the tiger reserve itself, which means there is no excuse to not have the right infrastructure. There is no excuse to have so much of gaps, or there are so many vacancies in the watchers, in the guard level, and that is just not required. It can always be funded with enough money. What needs to be done, and I hope that Supreme Court takes cognizance of the bigger issues. These clashes that we say between tigers and people is actually an optic. The tiger and people were never friends. They were always at loggerheads with each other. But because of the way protection was done, and Mr. Shekhawat and Sunil Sharma ji have managed this park, it is possible to reduce the skirmish. The problem lies when there is bigger development that comes in. People see this daily action between a tiger and an individual. But what they forget is that the habitat is going to go down. So the Supreme Court, I hope, will go very strong on curbing the illegal mining, the linear infrastructure mitigations, and all those bigger issues. Tigers know what to do. If there is space, they will move away. Tourism becomes a easy, low-hanging fruit, and everybody goes after tourism, and there are ways in which you can control it. But I don't think this problem is because of tourism. The problem lies somewhere else. We try to control tourism and say that we have sorted it out, but tourism is just a byproduct. The main thing is the protection. If the protection is good, tourism will remain, and if there is good contiguity between forests, then young tigers will disperse out and the population will stabilize. So I think the solution is now that it's in the hands of Supreme Court. I hope that we get some good hearing, and that the bigger problems of mining, the bigger problems of corridors are sorted. There has to be a landscape level plan. So the Supreme Court, if they suggest that Ranthambore should not be treated in isolation, Ranthambore has to be treated as a greater Ranthambore landscape, which should include the other two tiger reserves, the corridor, and all the businesses that happen there. You need to have an integrated approach so that solutions can be found.
and work well. Look, gentlemen, I'm out of time, but thank you so much for raising these very important issues. It's something that affects Ranthambore now, but frankly, a lot of these issues are common in many of our other tiger reserves across our country. Thank you very much for being with us. We're going to move on now to a very special interview. The Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, in an exclusive conversation with my colleague Nazir Masoodi, has spoken about the need for solidarity among people in the country after the Pahalgam terror attack. He says that tourism must be brought back to counter terrorism which has taken place. It's his first interview after a special meet of his cabinet.
Well, it was most unusual cabinet meeting in Jammu and Kashmir. Away from the state capital, Srinagar or Jammu, a cabinet meeting was held in Pahalgam in the backdrop of recent horrible terror attack at Partisan. I'm here at Betab Valley, and you can see Chief Minister Umar Abdullah is here. Umar Sahab, first visiting Pahalgam, now Betab Valley, and this valley is named after Betab film which was shot in 1980s. So what message first this cabinet meeting, now visiting to these places which were closed for last 1 month after the attack?
It's been a difficult situation. It's also we also have to tread cautiously, because while it's important that gradually tourism revives in Jammu and Kashmir, and particularly in Kashmir Valley, we don't want to give this impression that we are callous, or that the fact that 26 people lost their lives on the 22nd of April doesn't matter to us. Of course it matters to us. But it's also a time when we must start looking to the future. We must start seeing how we can begin to normalize the situation in the valley, and how places like Pahalgam, Betab Valley can reopen. So the cabinet meeting was about a number of things, but primarily it was about expressing solidarity with the people of Pahalgam, with the people of Jammu and Kashmir, particularly with the people of Kashmir who in one voice came out and condemned violence, condemned terror, condemned the killings of innocent people. And it's also about looking to the future, looking to restore and revive tourism. The valley, the place where we're sitting now, Betab Valley, normally they should have been full. Normally there shouldn't have been place for you and me to sit. Normally there you would have heard the sound of children running, playing in the stream, playing on the zip line at the back. Right now it's empty.
But wasn't this an effort actually to restore the confidence when you came here? Pahalgam held this meeting, and you're also meeting the stakeholders. And I also saw some of the tourists visiting here, though some of them were disappointed that these parks are still closed.
No, I can understand their disappointment, and that's actually why I'm here. We want that some of the destinations that were closed in the immediate aftermath of the attack in Baisaran, they should now start opening, and that's what we're working on. So yes, part of it is a confidence boosting measure, and part of it is designed to show that Kashmir is open again.
And when we have a cabinet meeting of the elected government here in Pahalgam, clearly cabinet meeting in a normal state would be showing the hard power of the government. Look, we're here, we will crush you. But when this elected government doesn't have a control over the security or the law and order, so is this meeting actually show the resolve of the people, elected representatives, that we are here? It is the people's message, not the message of the state or the hard power.
Well, it's actually to reinforce the message of the people, and the people's message was soft power. The way in which the people came out and condemned violence, the way in which the people of Kashmir showed solidarity with those who lost their lives in the attack here, that was part of that. That was soft power. So yes, what we're doing here is not, we're not muscle flexing. We're not trying to convey a hard image. We're trying to show that this is a government of the people. It's a government that's concerned with the welfare of the people. It's a government that wants Jammu and Kashmir, and particularly Kashmir, to normalize now. And we want to begin to sort of welcome guests back to the valley.
गोल्ड प्लस ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रिफ्लेक्टिव ग्लास लगाओ, धूप की गर्मी को दूर भगाओ और बिजली का बिल भी बचाओ।
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years.
Well, the last several weeks have seen a great deal of tension here in the subcontinent. We've seen India and Pakistan get into fierce skirmishes with one another, and there is a sense that the tension does continue. Many at one stage felt that this was getting into a serious warlike situation, but it ended up not being that, fortunately. Perhaps joining us for his views on what's been taking place in the subcontinent and a lot else, Ian Bremer. Ian, good to see you. Thank you very much for being with us. You would have been seeing from far away all of the developments in India, India going in with its attacks, taking out terrorist training centers in Muridke, Bahawalpur, and several other areas. Pakistan responding at one stage militarily. Did you see things getting potentially out of hand?
It's always possible, especially because the military escalation was greater this time around than the last few incidents. I mean, you had civilians that were getting caught up in it, both in terms of the initial terrorist attack, as well as the Indian response. Obviously, there's also more capable military material and intelligence entering the field. You had Indian aircraft that were shot down. That was a surprise. You had the ability of the Indian government with drones to bracket Pakistani nuclear facilities. That was a surprise. People thought that was impregnable. So for all of those reasons, your presumption of deterrence, both in terms of the decision-making of both governments and militaries, as well as the capacities of both governments, militaries, that was left open to question, uncertainty. And whenever deterrence is uncertain, that means that you're more willing to test it, because everybody wants to ensure that you can rebuild that deterrence. And I don't think that we're there right now. So this does feel like a much more dangerous period, even though, thankfully, a ceasefire is now in place.
Just on that point on Indian aircraft having been shot down, there hasn't yet been a statement officially from the Indian government, but they have said that everyone has walked out. So we are still waiting for that detail to sort of emerge. But be that as it may, in terms of the strikes on Pakistani air bases, India says that ultimately resulted in Pakistan coming onto the table, the ceasefire table, and start talking. Do you believe that it was the weight of those Indian strikes onto those Pakistani air bases that persuaded Islamabad to perhaps try and bring things to an end?
Look, I mean, you say that the Indian government hasn't admitted that any aircraft have been knocked down. The Pakistani government and military haven't admitted that their nuclear facilities were effectively bracketed by India. So, I mean, there's a level of propagandizing, of course, that's going on from both countries, which are trying to show that they are as strong as possible, that nothing can happen from the other side that is going to undermine them. So I accept that there is some level of fog of war, which is still going on. But certainly Pakistan, which is much weaker than India, was interested, I think, in bringing this to a close pretty quickly. and the Indian government having seen that both they had a lot of capacity to display to Pakistan that they could hit them with impunity, but also in response to terrorist acts that they thought were much more escalated from previous such assaults, meaning that the Indian equivalent of mowing the grass, slapping Pakistan back, was not effective in ensuring Indian security. I think for both of those reasons, India was less willing to bring this to an end. And that's why you saw the United States government ultimately intervening at a very high level, first with Vice President Vance on behalf of Pakistan, bringing messages to India, and then directly from Secretary of State Rubio.
Just 2 points, and since it's something that I've been covering quite closely here. Again, the Indian government, on record on this particular occasion, has said that they didn't bracket any Pakistani nuclear facilities. You're talking about the Kirana Hills site. I am aware of the news, and I am aware of the explosion which was filmed on social media, but they insist on record, because they were asked this, that they didn't cross a certain nuclear threshold. But again, fog of war and claims versus counterclaims. That's again a matter of debate. But on the larger issue of the United States role, again, there is another perspective which has been stated over here, which is that it was Pakistan that actually came to the table. The Director General of Military Operations called up his Indian counterpart and said, look, let's put an end to it. That same DGMO, who a little more than 48 hours earlier on had actually said, no, now that you've hit targets in Pakistan, we intend to retaliate.
Yeah, and again, from the U.S. perspective, this needed to be brought to an end as quickly as possible. If you had one more round of escalation, and if that included Pakistan creating any readiness with its nuclear weapons, then the U.S. would have evacuated citizens from the embassy, would have declared an emergency for all American citizens on the ground, and that would have had broader knock-on consequences. So clearly they were very concerned about that and immediately involved. Now, did Modi decide to accept a ceasefire because he felt that the Pakistani government was asking for it, or because the United States had threatened consequences in the broader relationship, including on trade? Again, I understand why, if you're the Indian government, you would want that to focus purely on the former. And also, the U.S. had announced that there were going to be ongoing discussions that the U.S. would facilitate with Pakistan and India, so-called hyphenated relationship, which India, of course, does not accept and did not accept going forward. So, I mean, clearly, at least some of what the United States announced turned out to be premature and inaccurate on that front. But what we do know is that, coincidence or not, after American involvement, both sides decided to, for now at least, accept a ceasefire. And I think we can all agree that that's a very useful thing.
No, absolutely. But again, I must sort of offer the perspective which has been brought about here without necessarily endorsing anything. That's not my job. But on the entire issue of trade, because we were specifically trying to ask, Donald Trump did repeatedly suggest that, look, the priority was trade, and that India and Pakistan were told that, let's work towards trade. And if you want that to happen, then perhaps you need to cease hostilities. Our sources over here have told us categorically that no, absolutely not. There was no conversation on trade at all. They did, however, confirm that there was an important conversation between Jaishankar and I think it was Marco Rubio, where it was stated that, things could escalate. And there was evidence to suggest that Pakistan might escalate. And that was something that India listened to very closely. And in fact, Pakistan did escalate. How? With a large number of drones. I think on the second odd day, 400 plus drones all the way from the Siachen Glacier to Bhuj in Gujarat. There were missile strikes, potential uses of ballistic missiles, etc., etc. And that did happen. So they did escalate. But I'm not sure in my own reading that the United States necessarily was the reason why India and Pakistan stopped fighting, because New Delhi categorically felt that they didn't want a shuttle sort of diplomacy between India and Pakistan being done by the US. Again, that's what I've been told. Your views.
Yeah, I agree that India doesn't want shuttle diplomacy and didn't accept it going forward. But it is the one thing that we do know is that directly after the U.S. conversations, one, the Americans took credit, and not just the president, who's inclined to take credit for everything, but the administration more broadly. And two, the ceasefire did indeed go in place. So, I mean, I would be surprised to make the argument that the Americans weren't relevant or weren't involved and didn't play a role, which seems to be what the Indian stated public position is. Again, not that I really care, frankly. I mean, you know, the important thing is that it came to an end. But I mean, the reality is the United States here is far more powerful than India, just as India is far more powerful than Pakistan. And that puts Modi in a more difficult position. The U.S. is capricious in terms of its willingness to take a shot, not just at its adversaries, China, but even its friends, India. You saw not only did the United States decide that it was going to put tariffs on India as part of Liberation Day, but also that, you know, you were going to have to come to the table and negotiate that. And the consequences could be quite costly for the Indian economy. It certainly led to the Indian government moving much more quickly to try to step up and accelerate its customs unions and trade talks with other countries around the world, with the Europeans, with the UK, with Australia, with New Zealand, with others. Also, you saw how Trump directly threatened Apple because they decided to take their production for US iPhones for US consumption out of China, where the US wants to decouple, towards India. And so you're hearing from the American president directly, India is not an acceptable move of Apple's investment in capital for American consumption, 25% tariffs. Now, is that a negotiating feint? Or is that because we've seen negotiating feints with the Chinese, with the Europeans, with others? Or is that a cost that the Indians are prepared to bear? So, I mean, I think if you're the Indian government right now, you recognize that for all of your efforts to align with the U.S. more strategically, and this is for a country that historically has had a celebrated non-alignment policy towards the rest of the world, for your involvement in the Quad, for your desire to continue to build more advanced military equipment using American technology in India. I mean, all of these things, the US president is not necessarily treating you the way you want to be treating you. He's treating you actually like a country that's much, much weaker. And India is not used to that. So I understand why this is diplomatically uncomfortable for a leader as strong as Prime Minister Modi to come to grips with.
But again, the counter to that would be that there have been, I believe, 200 nations which have actually offered India support, saying quite clearly that, look, you know, terrorism from Pakistan is unacceptable. That they've offered their condolences for the terror attack itself. Yes, you do have Indian ministers from various parties and MPs rather from various parties traveling across the world right now saying that, look, you know, Pakistan is the epicenter of terrorism. It's time for countries to accept that in a much bigger way. But do you necessarily think that Indian foreign policy has come out of this weaker?
No, I wouldn't say weaker. But I would say to the extent that India-Pakistan relations are now more tense, and Pakistan is a nuclear power, right? Yeah. And not that that makes anyone particularly comfortable or happy, but it's a reality. Yeah, it is. Now that India has withdrawn from the Indus Water Treaty and is assertively threatening to take some of that water away, which would destroy Pakistan's economy and agriculture. I mean, the reality is that we are closer to an all-out war between India and Pakistan today than we were a month ago. The reality is that India can no longer count on the United States to the same degree that it felt like it could 4 months ago. And of course, India-China relations are a little bit more stable, given the last Modi-Xi direct meeting, which was constructive. But I mean, Pakistan's military support comes from China, as we all know. So, I mean, just adding those three things up, I would certainly be less comfortable in Modi's position now than I would have been a few months ago. The world is a more dangerous place. The subcontinent is a more dangerous place. Modi is one of the strongest leaders of any large economy in the world today. Is he stronger than Xi Jinping? I wouldn't make that argument, but he's certainly, for a leader of a democracy, he's doing quite well. And you know, Modi's party has also performed more than adequately in recent local elections, surprising to some. So it's not as if Modi is facing significant domestic backlash from any of these challenges. But again, your question to me was, you know, is India in a much weaker position? I think it's harder to be India today than it was a few months ago. Absolutely. And I have a hard time imagining anyone serious in India, including my friend Foreign Minister Jaishankar, would really argue anything different.
Well, he has been arguing quite differently, hasn't he?
I mean, not really. Not really. I mean, everything I just said, he accepts. All of the difficulties of not that India has done anything wrong, not that India has made huge mistakes, but everything I've just said in terms of the broader geopolitical position India finds itself in, he would not disagree with.
Fair enough. All right, Ian Bremmer, great speaking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on some very testy times over here in the subcontinent. Sure. Thank you very much indeed. With so much anticipation about a prospective end to the war between Russia and Ukraine, the moves of the US president are being tracked very closely, and indeed the moves of Vladimir Putin as well, which is why it came as a surprise when the US president Donald Trump said that he was seriously worried about why Russia wasn't ending the war, going to the extent of asking whether Vladimir Putin was crazy in doing what he was doing right now. This comes obviously in the context of several strikes by Russia against Kiev in the last 48 hours. Joining us now to discuss this, Ravi Agarwal. Thanks, Ravi, very much for being with us.
Pleasure.
Did Trump end up getting ahead of himself when he felt that the war would be brought to an end in a very finite period of time?
Oh, absolutely. Trump promised that he could end the war in one day. That hasn't happened. We're now at 4 months and counting. Look, I think Trump maybe completely underestimated who Vladimir Putin is. No one has really been able to convince Putin that this war is a war that, you know, is certainly not in anyone's interest in a global sense. And also that Russia itself, if you look at objectives and whether it's achieved any of its original goals, the jury's out. Longer term, Russia too is suffering from this. Ukraine, of course, is. But this is where Putin may not entirely be rational about his aims and outcomes. And Putin, as we know, is a man who measures himself against figures in history, Catherine the Great, Peter the Great. And so that is what he's looking at for a legacy against all odds. Even if he doesn't succeed, he must try. And I think Trump fundamentally misunderstood who he was dealing with. At this point, it's very hard for him to acknowledge that he misunderstood him. And he really has two choices. One is to make that acknowledgement and then decide to support Ukraine wholeheartedly. I doubt that's going to happen. The other more worrying outcome, Vishnu, is that he just throws up his hands in the air and says, you know what? We don't care about foreign wars. You deal with your own problems. And that is a distinct possibility at this point.
Where does that leave Europe? Because for them to have the industrial base to support Ukraine indefinitely in this conflict seems unrealistic. At the same time, Ukraine possibly doesn't have the number of soldiers they need to keep sustaining this war indefinitely. That's so far not a problem for Russia. Do you see Kiev being forced to take a call within this year?
Possibly. I mean, the thing is, this war has morphed over the last 2, 3 years from a personnel war now to a drone-based war. Russia's attacks over the last 48 hours were overwhelmingly drones and missiles. And this is an area where Ukraine itself has become a global leader. I've visited some of its drone manufacturing plants in Kyiv, and they are absolutely cutting edge. There are many in Kyiv and Ukraine who believe that they can conduct this kind of a war. They don't have manpower, but they have an asymmetrical advantage through drone warfare. And they also think that they can get some concessions from their European allies to use missiles that go much further into Russian territory. The Taurus missiles, which come from Germany, for example, have a range of 500 kilometers. Those could strike deep into Russian territory. So, Ukraine will feel emboldened, actually. It will not want to give up immediately. And I think, lastly, it will know that over the last 3 years, this conflict one thing has stayed roughly constant, that Russia has had somewhere between 18 and 22% of Ukraine's territory. It hasn't been able to expand beyond that. And Ukraine will have some confidence from that.
What would Russia's goals at this stage be?
This is unclear to me. Look, the question underlying this, Vishnu, is Putin a rational actor? Is he an actor who cares about his people? And on the first one, I think the jury's out. On the second one, no, he doesn't care about his people. He has essentially thrown hundreds of thousands of people into a meat grinder of war. The losses of life have been immense on the Russian side. They haven't confirmed it. The Kremlin hasn't. But I think he believes he can sustain this for long enough. And this is where one of the awful lessons of the last 15 or 20 years in geopolitics is that absolute repression can work if you continue to repress your people to a degree that there is no real pushback. So we see Kim Jong-un do this in North Korea. And I think Putin feels like there are no realistic challenges that he hasn't absolutely crushed. There is no popular dissent that is not absolutely crushed. So what are the actual things that are stopping him? I will say one more thing here, though. On the economy, he has not been hit as hard as he could have been. There were additional measures both the United States and Europe could have taken to cripple Russia's shadow fleet, its exports of crude. There were more measures that they knew they were leaving on the table. And part of the reason they were is the United States in particular didn't want oil prices to go soaring upwards. And so there have been other means for Russian crude to hit the market. And ultimately, it is about political will.
What about a potential regime change in Ukraine? Would that be something that Russia might accept? They have problems with Zelensky. Zelensky has, of course, wanted the war to continue. If Zelensky was no longer a factor, would that change what we are seeing on the ground now?
Potentially, but we don't know in which direction. We don't know who would replace Zelensky. I will say this, though. Ukrainians in general reject the idea of an election under these conditions, under wartime conditions. Zelensky has suffered in popularity in the last couple of years, but there was a reversal in that trend after Trump came to power and that infamous meeting between Trump and Zelensky at the White House, where Zelensky was sort of dressed down by Trump in a way that was seen by many in Ukraine as insulting. Ever since then, Zelensky's popularity has increased. And I think it is very unlikely that the Ukrainians would agree to elections under these conditions or to any form of regime change. It wouldn't be seen as legitimate. And of course, Russia would interfere, as it often does in many European elections. And any candidate who would replace Zelensky would be seen suspiciously by the Ukrainian people and by Europeans. So I don't think that is an option that is viable for Ukraine.
And a final question, when we were in Munich a couple of months back, the entire paradigm of NATO and America being fundamental to the defense of the continent, took a turn, some would suggest for the worse. It just disappeared overnight. If the United States is unable to resolve the war between Russia and Ukraine, it would go to prove that what European leaders were saying is correct or entirely correct. Would America potentially reconsider the statements made by J.D. Vance in Munich and perhaps acknowledge that, look, perhaps that Europe may be right, and Russia is a force which needs to perhaps be tackled with American assistance?
The jury's out here. There are many theories on the American side about what America sees as its role in the world. There's a faction that sees on the MAGA side that America should not be the world's policeman. There's another faction that believes in spheres of influence, in that America controls much of the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere could be carved up by China and Russia, which is very much, this term, spheres of influence, was first used in 1884 in Berlin at a carving up of the world. And it sort of implies a return to an imperial era that, frankly, no one around the world wants to go back to. I think all of that ultimately is unlikely. We don't know where the United States will land. What we do know is that Europe is going to plow ahead with reinventing, reconstituting its defense industrial base, with dramatically upping defense spending. Many European countries are now talking about 5% of their GDP on defense spending. Some of this could go to roads and bridges, which are used to transport heavy military artillery. I think those are trend lines that have begun. And I think those are trend lines that will continue into the future. 10, 15 years from now, there's little doubt in my mind that Europe will be militarily way more self-sufficient than it currently is today. Those trends have been set in motion. The here and now is a bigger problem, Vishnu, because Europe cannot fully support Ukraine to the extent that it needs. And that is why this is as much of a problem as it is. It is fairly likely, because of these sort of timing issues, that we may see some sort of not a ceasefire, but a stalemate, where the two sides continue to wage this drone warfare without making significant advances on the battlefield until there is some real diplomatic movement. The question is, who's going to push that through? Trump himself has said that maybe the new pope should do that. And of course, there is no recorded history of a pope having solved a global conflict.
All right, Ravi, that's actually a fascinating thought. Let's see what finally happens. It's so sad that so many people continue to lose their lives every single week in Ukraine. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts. Thanks very much indeed.
My pleasure, Vishnu.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news, from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World.
Tone now is a storm. Do you know what? There is joblessness, the youth there on the streets, they don't know what to do. There is soaring debt, and not to forget the rising terror. There are separatists, there is a lot of unrest, and a military that is still pulling the strings. Remember, he himself has got himself promoted to the field marshal. We are talking of the army chief there. From Balochistan to the Taliban, you have chaos that is brewing when it comes to Pakistan. But India is moving forward. So tonight we are asking why Pakistan is desperate and India is unmoved. Why does Pakistan exist? That is a question the Prime Minister is asking. And that is Narendra Modi's moral missile, to which Pakistan has no answers. The world is watching. We are deep diving into that subject. Let me quickly say good evening to a panel of guests joining us. We have Ashok Sajjanhar, who's a former diplomat on the show. We have Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon, who's a former GOC of the 15 Corps. And remember, he's been going viral on the social media for a lot of things that he says. So thank you also, sir, for your time. And always a pleasure also to have Sushant Sareen, who's a strategic affairs expert and a senior fellow at the ORF. With your permission, gentlemen, let's also fire our straight questions. These are questions that will shape the larger conversation tonight. And it's an issue that many would say that India is getting obsessed with Pakistan because time has now come to find a solution to the problem that is called Pakistan. It is now or never. Does Pakistan exist solely and solely to harm India? Like you've heard the Prime Minister say, that Pakistan has no agenda. The only agenda is anti-India. Keep talking about Kashmir, keep ratcheting up tension because they have absolutely nothing else to do. This brings us to our second straight question now that's going to go up on your screens. And that reads that as India rises, ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan today is stuck. And it is stuck badly because this is a spiral of debt, there is decline, there is terrorism, there is unrest, there is strife. No one knows who's calling the shots in Pakistan. This brings us to our third straight question. That's an equally important question because you have this unrest, you have joblessness, and you have the Taliban heat, the same Taliban that Pakistan has created, mind you. So can Pakistan even afford any kind of fight with India? The answer, like they say, is blowing in the winds. Will Pakistan relinquish terror? That is our fourth straight question. And I think, again, not just the gentlemen on the panel, but all of you watching the show also know the answer to that question. This brings us to our fifth and the final straight question that we'll take across to our panel of guests. Is Pakistan even ready to talk on POK? India has said, POK is ours, we will take it back. Is Pakistan ready for that conversation? Or it doesn't want to have that conversation at all? Let's begin by taking that first question to KJS Dhillon. General Saab, What do you think Pakistan really today can do? There is, only that much that Pakistan can do. It has made noise. It has given you that nuclear blackmail, something that has been responded to effectively by the Prime Minister, by the Raksha Mantri. And now this is a Pakistan desperate for talks. They say, baat karte hain.
Good evening and good evening to my fellow panelists and your viewers. See, Pakistan, after Operation Sindoor, the limited doubt it had about its own capabilities also lies exposed now. See, fighting a war is not an easy option, not a cheaper option. It's a very difficult option and it's a very expensive option. And we know the economy of Pakistan, the way it is. We know the politics of Pakistan and we know the diplomatic standing of Pakistan. And military lessons at the better. Now, this 3 days or 4 days of conflict has exposed Pakistan's military to an extent where, being a nuclear state, they could not withstand. That is on third morning, that is on 10th morning, third day of the conflict, their air force and air defense was down. And we could hit their air bases at will with precision weapons. Our missiles, our projectiles could not be intercepted at all. So that exposed the military might of Pakistan, the imported weapons of Turkey and China, vis-a-vis India weapons, Indian JV weapons and Russian weapons. So that is where Pakistan has been told by the West, no more, muh pe kalik potna. The weapon industry is a very big industry in the world. Now with Russian and Indian weapons getting a might and a projection of might which they showed, all the orders are going to come to this part of the world. So now they don't want any more conflict in this area and lest they expose these weapons more. So that is where Pakistan, because of internal politics, internal economic downtrend, as also the pressure from the West, is now talking the same language which it has been talking for the last 50 years.
Absolutely.
That we want to discuss peace, we want to discuss everything, we want to discuss trade, and we also want to discuss the main thing, which is Kashmir. Now, this is not acceptable to us.
Yes. I think that's a good point, and I'm glad that you've spoken about the last many, many years, because what our team has also done, Ashok Sajanar, before I come to you and Sushant, is also to play out these graphics, because these are details that will tell you what has India done versus what Pakistan decided to do right from 71 to 2007. Now see, in 71, you have India that returns 93,000 prisoners of war. What does Pakistan do? It refuses to return only just 54 Indian soldiers. So this is the tale of what Pakistan is capable of doing. Utter betrayal. This brings us to a second point. Again, that's on your screens. Remember Atal Bihari Vajpayee? He took that bus ride from Lahore. And what happened in retaliation? You had Pakistan troops that infiltrate the LOC. And this triggered the Kargil war. We all know what happened to Pakistan even then. And let's not forget, 26/11, the Mumbai terror attack. In 2007, we all know that there were those back channel conversations that happened between India and Pakistan. Again, this is because Pakistan wanted to talk. It came begging for talks. And look at the response of Pakistan. 175 people lose their lives in 26/11, the Mumbai terror attacks that happened in 2008. So Ashok Sajanar sir, because you've been a former diplomat, when you look at a thing like this, military, we are responding to Pakistan effectively. But diplomatically, is there more that can be done? And today when Pakistan is even wanting to have a conversation or talks, can we even trust Pakistan at all? Or you believe the line that the Prime Minister has drawn is that we'll talk to you, but on terror and on POK is actually the best response?
Yeah, thank you very much, Deepthi, for having me on the show. Yes, you're very right. I think as far as Pakistan is concerned, it makes tall promises. It never fulfills them. The challenge as far as Pakistan is concerned, it never walks the talk. And we've had, over the last 75 plus years, 78 years, we've been talking. But then Pakistan has always gone back on its commitments. You remember what Musharraf said in 2004, that the Pakistani territory will not be used for any terrorist attacks against India. What do we see? Terrorism has not stopped as far as Pakistan is concerned. I don't think, one of the questions was, I think question number 4, is Pakistan going to give up terrorism? No. Because you see, basically, again, and it's a well it's an often quoted cliche that there are countries which have armies. Here, Pakistan is a place where an army has a country. Here, army rules the roost. Army is all powerful. And they are projecting themselves, they have projected themselves in such a manner that it is only the army which can guarantee, which can ensure security as far as Pakistan is concerned because of this threat from India. I think some of the leaders in Pakistan have realized, and Prime Minister Modi is also told the people of Pakistan, it is not India which, from which they face a threat. It is poverty. They need to work on their economy to make a better living condition for the people.
Oh, yes.
So coming back to your question, Pakistan today has its back to the wall. Back to the wall because it has been very comprehensively demolished as far as this 3-4 day conflict is concerned. And earlier, what Shehbaz Sharif used to say that, we are going to discuss Kashmir, Imran Khan used to say, if you remember his talk at the UN General Assembly in 2019, etc. Right now, they are making very soft, gentle noises that we are willing to talk and so on and so forth. We want to talk on water. I think we really have them, truly cornered with the Indus Waters Treaty, because that is going to be if there's an existential threat for their the livelihood of their people, agriculture, etc., it is going to be the Indus Water Treaty.
Yes.
So, on some of the questions, terrorism, definitely it will keep coming, so we have to keep ourselves ready. And we limit ourselves only to these two subjects that the Prime Minister has said. Terrorism, how do we deal with terrorism? And you have to give incontrovertible evidence that you are taking action. And the first thing would be, give us some of these terrorists, high-value terrorists like Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar.
Yes.
The chances of that, I don't think, are very bright in the near future.
You're right. And I think ad nauseum, these are things that can be spoken about Pakistan, Sushant. And there's a reason why we have these two images on our screens. On one side is the India growth story, India on the path of development, India inching closer to become the 4th largest economy, Sushant. On the other side, like when it comes to in Pakistan, तो कहते हैं कि आटे के दाम भी इतने बढ़ चुके हैं कि वहाँ पर people cannot even afford that, Sushant. I mean, this is not a pun. This is quite literally happening in Pakistan. And then comes the entire question of nuclear weapons, the IMF, the FATF. And we have another graphic to help our viewers understand that what has Pakistan done whenever it gets money from the IMF. Because this is, again, where the West needs to be held accountable, Sushant. Then why don't you push that point a little further as we are putting out on our screens that what India wants to do as far as the FATF is concerned to get Pak back on the grey list, and what has Pakistan done whenever it has got that money, it has pushed that towards arms, towards, putting in more weapons and using that to push terror. Sushant.
So, Deepthi, let me be a bit of an outlier in this group. Because look, I am one of those who feels that there was an old Star Trek quote, you fool me once, shame on you. You fool me twice, shame on me. Pakistan has fooled us innumerable times and continues to do it. So let's not get fooled by the fact that they're desperate for talks. And Deepthi, please don't make the mistake of thinking that what moves India or the Indian system, that we want to uplift our people from poverty, we want to grow, we want to educate our children, we want them to be gainfully employed, we want to compete with the world, is what moves Pakistan. Please don't make that mistake, because I think somewhere in the subconscious, in the way you are raising these questions, you think what moves India moves Pakistan. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
They don't give a damn for what happens to that mass of underclass in their country. They don't care for them. It is what the Pakistanis themselves call an elite capture, that there are these bunch of elites who run the show. It includes, of course, the army, but include people who are the elite, and they don't care a damn what happens to the people at the lower end of the scale, which is a reality. So they have different priority. Secondly, they could be going with a begging bowl, they could be in a terrible shape, but please understand the mindset. I'm not sure if Ambassador Sajjanar understands it, but General Dhillon and I come from the same part of this country, and in our part of the world, there is this concept that I have to bring the house of my enemy down even if I come under. That is what moves them. And we are thinking that, look, they're desperate for talks. No, they're not desperate for talks. They're doing virtue signaling. They are trying to tell the rest of the world that, look, we are trying to be so reasonable. The Indians are being bloody-minded about it. They don't want to talk to us. You know, so they are trying to show that we are very reasonable people, which they are not. And I think we need to disabuse the rest of the world about what Pakistan is and what it can do, which is a segue to your question on whether we can achieve something in the FATF or in IMF and other parts. My own sense is that in the IMF, for example, you know, I think we approach the issue wrongly. We approach the issue by going to the IMF and saying that, look, these guys are going to use this money for terrorism. The IMF tells us that, no, we are not giving it for budget, we are giving it for balance of payment support. As though money is not fungible. Money is completely fungible. You might be giving it for balance of support, payment support, but they are using it for terrorism, right? Which is what we know. But we approach this problem from a political angle, which is wrong because the IMF will only look at technical things. Why don't our economists take Pakistani data and prove that the Pakistanis are, you know, doing this, are throwing mud into the eyes of the IMF, giving them wrong data, giving them fictitious and completely fabricated data to show that this economy is reviving. Why doesn't our economists do a forensic analysis of their accounts and show that all the data which they have presented to the world right now is utter fraud that they are pulling on the world? Rather than focus on the politics and diplomacy, focus on the technical parts. On the FATF, again, we will have a diplomatic task cut out for us because not all the countries are going to back us on this FATF thing simply because they all have their own agendas. For example, Pakistanis seem to have bought out the White House because of personal business interests of the Trump family. I don't think the Americans are going to say, okay, fine, we are going to punish the Pakistanis for getting into, for example, cryptocurrency with which they can actually fund terrorism. But they are doing it with a company which is closely aligned to the Trump family. And do you think with that protection, anybody is going to come and penalize them? So I think our task in FATF, I'm not saying that we should let the field go, but our task in FATF is going to be cut out for us and we should be aware of it. That means that we have to continue on this diplomatic onslaught to make sure, and also have some kind of penal clauses for companies or for countries which do business with Pakistan. I don't think we have explored that option enough, or we have even exercised that option even a little bit. But I think the time has come where we say that, okay, if you're doing business in Pakistan or start within POK, the Indian market is closed for you. You are blacklisted from the Indian market. Then they have a choice. They want, you know, a third-rate place like POK and Pakistan, or they want a growing market like the Indian market. So we need to think more innovatively and out of the box on how to corner the Pakistanis.
Okay, I think these are interesting thoughts that are coming in from Sushant. General Dhillon, would you agree with what you've heard so far? And if I were to ask you that what should India do, considering that you have a lot of these powers who've indulging in monkey balancing, going in for their self-interest, you have India drawing a new red line, but then there is only that much that you can do. But you need to teach Pakistan a lesson.
Dipti, I'll tackle it in two parts. Firstly, what we should do and why the world should align with us. As Mr. Sreen has very rightly said, we are the fourth largest GDP-wise economy, and everyone would benefit if they align with the growing economy. That is one. Secondly, we are 1/6 of the world in terms of population, hence the 1/6 of the world's market. So everyone will benefit. They can come and sell their products in India as compared to Pakistan or POK, as Mr. Sreen says. Thirdly, we are the world's biggest democracy. Everyone would like to do business with the democracy other than as compared to a sham democracy or a half dictatorship as we see in Pakistan. Now, these are the points which are in our favor. Now, let me tell you why world will not give up on Pakistan or why world will not spank Pakistan. You just have to look at the map of this subcontinent. Look at the way Pakistan is geostrategically located. There is Arab Sagar and warm waters of Indian Ocean on the south. There is a Strait of Hormuz and complete Gulf oil and complete West Asia onto the southwest. There is complete Shia country which is not very friendly with the USA, Iran onto its west and northwest. Then there is a business still to be completed on terrorism, Afghanistan to the north. And a very important region, Central Asian region further up north, access to which from Arabian Sea is very important. And then you have India, which is a mighty country, which will not give you bases, which has a very dynamic and diversified democracy, which will not align with you and which will not listen to your dictatorship but your dictating terms. And then you have China in the region. Now, for all these areas to be kept under US or Western influence, there's only one country which will happily give the bases in return for some money, and that is Pakistan. Now, that is the reason nobody, Ambassador Sajanhar can further elaborate on it, nobody in the West would give up on Pakistan because Pakistan is a balancing base here. And also it will act as a counter to India whenever they want to finger India. So these are the points which are in favor of Pakistan. Geostrategy is the biggest point in their favor. Whereas in our favor is our democracy, our population, our market, our economy, and our wholesome way we live in the country. Everyone is welcome. We don't differentiate between caste, creed, religion, and other things in spite of our internal fault lines. So Pakistan is there to stay. Pakistan will continue to do this monkey business of terrorism, and it will continue to do this sweet talk of we are ready to talk and we are ready to do this just to fool the West. Whereas we understand the Punjabi Pakistani Musliman's mindset. He will never give up on terrorism. He will go like Mr. Srinivas Singh, uska ghar jal jaye. पड़ोसी के घर में आग जरूर लगाएगा वो.
And that is
Pakistan.
Punjabi
Pakistani Musliman mindset.
That is typical Pakistan for you. Ambassador
No,
Sajanhar.
Pakistani Punjabi Musliman mindset, not other Pakistani, not the Sindhi or Pashtun or Baluch or Gilgit-Baltistani or POK ka bashinda.
They don't
It's a
even
typical
believe, Dhillon
Punjabi
Saab, that they
Pakistani
belong
Musliman
to
mindset.
Pakistan. That is the best part about, what Pakistan does not want to tell the world. But Ambassador Sajanhar, then what do? When the Prime Minister says, and he asks this basic question that why does Pakistan even exist? The only idea of Pakistan is anti-India. To keep talking about Kashmir, there is merit then when the Prime Minister says this.
No, absolutely. Deepti, there is great merit in that because, individuals, like, countries like individuals have to define themselves in a positive way. Pakistan defines itself in an anti-India way. Anything that India is, Pakistan wants to be against that.
Yes.
That is what its identity is. And I think that is a very negative way of looking at it, and that is what over the last 78 years since its independence, it has always been looking over its shoulders to see what India is doing, and it's sort of, trying to go contrary to that. That is why it is, finds itself as, my two distinguished panelists have said very rightly, meaning look at what the situation of Pakistan today is. As far as inflation is concerned, it's about 40%.
Yes.
As far as foreign exchange reserves are concerned, it's about $3-4 billion. You look at the situation of security, of law and order. Sindh, it is up in arms. Balochistan, of course, you have buses and trains being hijacked and people being massacred, particularly as far as the Pakistan army is concerned. You look at Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, you look at Pakistan occupied. Yes. Everywhere there is disquiet. You look at the neighbors. It's not only with India, Deepti, it is also with Afghanistan. It's also with Iran that they have problems. You look at the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, they have been carrying on so many attacks there. And, across the country, there is disquiet. Only to meet the ego and the self-interest of one individual and one institution, that is the army.
That's the army, yes.
That is all that it survives for.
Yes. Ambassador Saab, I'm completely out of time. I just want to give the last 5 seconds, if possible, to Sushant. 5 seconds, Sushant.
What do
And you have to speak about Pakistan.
There's nothing I can say in 5 seconds. I am not known for my brevity. So.
Okay, but we've touched a lot of interesting issues. Balochistan, the Sindh province, and the GHQ Rawalpindi. So I'm sure when it comes to Pakistan, there is so much to speak about, and that is why Newsnight has kept its continuous focus, ladies and gentlemen, on that issue. I'm thanking all three extinguished guests for joining us right now for their time, as we quickly get in Newsnight's parting shot now. Now, desperation, remember, is in the air, as you have sensed this. Pakistan wants talks, but it has nothing to offer. It only will tell you about crisis, about chaos, from terror to loans, internal strife to collapsing governance. Islamabad, ladies and gentlemen, is running out of its cards. In the meantime, you have the Prime Minister who's not blinking, no rush, because there is no pressure. But the message is very clear, talks only on POK and terror. So we need to watch this closely, because what Pakistan is going to do next, that will decide whether it sinks or it survives. And that is also what the world would want to know. Thank you so much for your time. Good night. News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
More news that matters.
Big exclusive. Tulsi Gabbard gunned down by Pakistan-backed cowards.
When you interact with people on ground, you're able to reflect their sentiments much better.
More debates that shake the system. More exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Not just another prime time. It's a prime time that's unmissable.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years. I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, you're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Priyanka Das. And we have an interesting mix of stories for you tonight, including some exclusive conversations. But before we dive right up, here's a quick look at the top headlines. Language row erupts after actor Kamal Haasan says Kannada was born out of Tamil. Pro-Kannada protesters threaten to boycott his films. Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan at NDTV Education Conclave says that states not being forced to teach Hindi, even as DMK hits back at centre, calling the NEP as an eyewash. 1 month after the heinous Pahalgam terror attack, Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah cycles in Pahalgam and speaks exclusively to NDTV. CM Omar expresses solidarity with residents of Pahalgam and urges people to visit Pahalgam without fear. President Murmu presented Padma Awards to the recipients across a diverse range of fields at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, from public policy to literature to folk music and a whole lot more. President Trump versus Harvard fight escalates. President Trump administration orders cancellation of Fed grants to Harvard worth $100 million. Now, there seems to be no end to the language issue in the country. This time, actor Kamal Haasan is sparked to controversy after saying that Kannada was born out of Tamil. Now, following his comments, pro-Kannada groups have slammed the actor's statement and threatened to boycott his films. Let's listen in to what the actor actually said.
இது அந்த ஊரில் இருக்கும் என் குடும்பம், அதனால தான் அவர் இங்கே வந்திருக்காரு. அதனால தான் நான் பேச்சை ஆரம்பிக்கும் பொழுது நான் உயிரே உறவே தமிழே என்று ஆரம்பித்தேன். அதில் தமிழிலிருந்து பிறந்தது தான் உங்கள் பாஷையும். அதனால் நீங்களும் அதில் உட்படுவீர்கள்.
ಕಮಲ್ ಹಾಸನ್ ಅವರು ಇತ್ತೀಚೆಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕನ್ನಡಕ್ಕಿಂತ ತಮಿಳೇ ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠ, ತಮಿಳು ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಬಂದಿರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅನೇಕ ಹೇಳಿಕೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕನ್ನಡದ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದರ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಇವತ್ತು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಕ್ಷಣಾ ವೇದಿಕೆ ತೀವ್ರವಾಗಿ ಎಚ್ಚರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಪಾದನೆ ಬೇಕು, ನಿಮಗೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಓಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕನ್ನಡದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅವಹೇಳನೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ. ಇವತ್ತು ಇಬ್ಬೂಸ್ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣ ಮಂಟಪದಲ್ಲಿ ತಗ್ಗು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಪ್ರಚಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಾವಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಮಶಿಯನ್ನು ಬಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಕ್ಷಣಾ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಸಿದ್ಧವಾಗಿ ಬರುವುದರ ಮುಂಚೆ ನೀವು ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಕಾಲ್ಕಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಎಚ್ಚರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕನ್ನಡದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ತೀವ್ರವಾದ ಹೋರಾಟ ಮತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸಿನಿಮಾವನ್ನು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಿಂದ ಬ್ಯಾನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಎಚ್ಚರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ.
I'm joined by my colleague Deepak Bopana on the broadcast to get us more details. Deepak, now of course Kamal Hassan's language comment has come under fire, especially with the pro-Kannada groups in the state slamming the comment and threatening to boycott him. What's really happening? Any protests that are being planned by them?
Well, we witnessed a round of protests by pro-Kannada groups who tore the poster of his upcoming movie. They also, of course, threatened that they wanted to actually smear black ink on Kamal Hassan, but he didn't come at that event. They've now even said that if he continues to make any sort of statements where they feel that he's letting down or insulting the language of Kannada or Kannadigas in any manner, they will also ban his movies. What the message has come in from some of the pro-Kannada leaders like Praveen Shetty. Now, this, of course, is during the promotion of his recent movie where actor Shiv Aroor was also there. He was speaking to him, and at that point in time, one particular statement that he's made where he tells Shiv Aroor that your language was also born out of Tamil. Now, that is something that has not gone down too well with pro-Kannada activists who feel that here he has tried to put Tamil above Kannada. So it is, of course, another language issue that is really emanating from Karnataka. How things will pan out, whether Kamal Hassan will want to respond to this, whether this will spiral into another controversy. Now, that is something that remains to be seen.
Right, Deepak, stay on with us as we're also covering another story from Karnataka. Now, just moving our focus slightly to a shocking case that has come to light from Mangaluru. Now, this has led to one person dying after a sword attack is what we're learning, while another individual is undergoing treatment and is fighting for his life. Now, remember, the incident occurred at Kambodi Kalpane in Bantwal of Dakshin Kannada district, and the authorities have now issued prohibitory orders till May 30th. Deepak, help me understand here because unfortunately, Mangaluru has become sort of a hotbed of sorts for the murders in the last couple of weeks, with prohibitory orders being issued by the authorities, of course, to ensuring that the law and order situation doesn't deteriorate. What really led up to this sword fight? It seems like a fairly bizarre case here.
Well, Mangaluru has been synonymous with, communal murders. This is not something that the people of Mangaluru, the people of Karnataka or anywhere in the country would like for a district to become synonymous with something like this. But unfortunately, over the years, we've seen political murders, we've seen communal murders take place here. We've last month itself witnessed tense atmosphere here after two murders took place, two people from two different faiths. Now, while things seem to be pretty normal and everything was under control, this murder has once again, built a lot of tension in the area. The prohibitory orders, like you said, have been already put to the fore. At this point in time, the family members, the relatives are all furious at politicians, at the police. They say they should have done a better job. There is also a Bandh call for tomorrow by some of the groups there. We really have to see whether that will take effect. Now, more importantly for the residents locally there, they will hope that peace is restored as soon as possible.
Right, Deepak. Thank you so much for getting us all those details from Karnataka, whether it was the language row that has erupted with the actor and as well as the Mangaluru shocker that has emerged with one person dying in the process. Now we're also getting some stories from Karnataka where Karnataka BJP MLC Ravi Kumar's comment on an IAS officer has drawn sharp reactions. Remember, the MLC, while speaking at a rally in Kalaburgi, had questioned if Fawzia Tarunam, who is the Deputy Commissioner of Kalaburgi, was from Pakistan. Now, this comment has drawn a lot of sharp reaction and condemnation, and the MLC has since apologized for the statement, but an FIR has been registered against him. Meanwhile, the Karnataka government has assured action against the BJP MLC.
At a recent protest in Kalaburgi, BJP MLC N. Ravi Kumar lashed out at the district administration, alleging bias against the opposition. But what drew outrage was his comment saying the Deputy Commissioner, a serving IAS officer, probably hails from Pakistan.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವ್ರೇನು ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನದಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಅಥವಾ ಇಲ್ಲಿ IAS ಆಫೀಸರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. ಬಹುಶಃ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆಯನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ಅವರು ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನದಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೇನೋ ನಂಗೆ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ.
An FIR has now been registered against Ravi for these comments. Coming under fire, the legislator has claimed it was an emotional outburst and has apologized.
उसने भी ऐसा बोल दिया, ऐसा नहीं बोलना था. भारतीय जनता पार्टी एक रेस्पॉन्सिबल सेंट्रल रूलिंग पार्टी होकर हमारे तरफ से ऐसा स्टेटमेंट आना ठीक नहीं है. मैं इसलिए मैं क्या इमोशनली बात किया हूँ उस पर मैं क्षमा मांगता हूँ.
The BJP, however, is accusing the Congress government of vendetta politics.
In a political speeches, many a times, leaders speak so many things. When they speak, one or two words here and there also will go. Is sometimes a person who utters the word, immediately if you take an excuse, so you have to leave it up. He is not told anything about atrocity words.
IAS officers, association and lot of officers met me this morning. They are shocked. A very clean, integrity officer, a woman. This is the respect they are showing to a woman officers. The government will take action, and I seek an explanation from the BJP president and the central ministers on this.
The Deputy Chief Minister has now asked the BJP to introspect on their statements. Despite an apology that came in from the BJP MLC, the politics over the matter continues. But the larger question here is, what is going to be done about the political decorum that needs to be maintained? And more importantly, is there going to be an end to the kind of ill treatment that's meted out to the bureaucrats by politicians? With me, the journalist Kumar, this is Deepak Bopana for NDTV.
As a former police officer, more than just being part of the BJP, is it not high time, sir, that a message of zero tolerance to such comments is sent in both categorical words and actions? It's time, many would argue, to take serious disciplinary actions against those who make such comments.
Thank you. These kind of sudden emotional outbursts are absolutely not in good taste. The party does not subscribe to such kind of language, especially against officers, and that too against a lady officer known for her integrity and devotion to duty. And we all know that Ms. Fauzia Taranum, the Deputy Commissioner of Kalburgi, she's an outstanding officer. We have all the respect for her. And these remarks have been made in personal capacity. But nevertheless, Mr. Ravi Kumar, after having made that statement, has realized what he has spoken, and he has unconditionally regretted and apologized to that. But what is unfortunate is that sometimes emotions take over, and one should be a little careful or more careful while speaking about persons. And moreover, what I want to say is that probably he has, in his vocal speech, instead of targeting political personalities, targeting an officer, that too who is not going to reply, is not correct. But he has now apologized, and I think the matter is stands closed. And Madam Taranum also has shown extreme dignity and said that my work alone says what kind of officer I am.
Now we're getting in some breaking news from the United States. Even as the Trump administration has sort of continued to clamp down on foreign students in the United States, reports are coming in that the US has now completely halted the student visas globally. And US embassies have paused new student visa appointments entirely, is what we're learning. On the broadcast, I'm joined by my colleague Vishal to get us more details. Vishal, what has been communicated to the US embassies in terms of the visas is what we're learning. What details do we have on this? Of course, the future of thousands of students now hangs in the balance.
Well, that is correct. And with the students, the future of many universities in the US also hangs in the balance, because if this method goes through, it will severely slow down the process of visa application, and also students getting inducted into various universities across the US. So foreign students bring in a lot of money to many universities across the US, and if the visa process of these students are slowed down, it will significantly affect the revenue generated at these universities. It could be any elite university. It could be Harvard. It could be Cornell. It could be Stanford. It could be so many Ivy League universities that could be affected by this. So it's not just students that will be affected by this. It could also be universities, as I mentioned. And it's so far not confirmed officially by the US administration. It's just US-based media reports that have quoted a certain cable that they have obtained from the State Department. They are quoting Marco Rubio on it and saying that this will go into effect really soon. The objective is to vet students who are coming into the US on social media. Their behavior on social media will be vetted. It could include checking their behavior pertaining to what are their views on Israel, Hamas, and also anti-Semitic views. If they are spotted, any students could be ejected. So these are certain areas that could be covered under this. It's a huge move. It will severely slow down the process of induction of students. So that will be the area that will be affected the most.
Certainly, Vishal, of course, because higher education is big money for the United States in terms of revenue. It generates a whole lot of billions of dollars, really, because with so many foreign students aspiring to go to the US every year, can you help us understand here how many universities in the country and students are likely to be impacted with the current semester, really, that's likely to begin in fall?
So if you take just the example of one university, Harvard University, there are at the moment, as we speak, at least 8,000 foreign students studying there. And each student there pays on an average about $40,000 to $50,000 per year. So you can imagine the level of a burden this could have on just one university. And there are at least 15 to 20 Ivy League universities in the US. As I mentioned, Cornell, Stanford, Harvard, Columbia, you name it. So all of these universities have thousands of foreign students, and each university has hundreds of Indian students. So it could also severely affect Indian students, who make up almost the second or the third largest group of international students studying in the US. The first one obviously is China, followed by other countries from Southeast Asia. India is certainly among the top 2 or 3. So Indian students will certainly be one of the most affected by this move.
Right, Vishal. Of course, earlier in the day also the Trump administration had cancelled the Fed grants for Harvard University, as you spoke earlier as well. But here, help me understand, because as you mentioned, the political affiliation of the students is something that they're looking at very closely, following the protests that happened in Columbia and Harvard as well, with anti-Semitism sentiments is what the Trump administration has been citing. Is there any rule or regulation that is likely to accompany this ruling or move?
Well, that remains to be seen. But as you mentioned, these protests that spread across the US last year, all of those protests are under the scanner. Many students have been handpicked from those protests, and they have been singled out. Their visas have been cancelled. They have been kicked out of SBBP programs, that student exchange program. So a lot of this revolves around the protest, as you mentioned, because the US administration, in their own view, considers most of these protests as anti-Semitic, even though experts have been saying that most of the students who participated in the protest are not anti-Semitic. They're just protesting the war in Gaza. And also the fact that most of the international students don't actually partake in these protests. And most of these protests did not turn out to be violent protests. So these measures are quite questionable by the US administration. Many experts have questioned it, but it remains to be seen what happens from now, because this crackdown on students, particularly foreign students, keeps on opening one chapter after the other. We recently saw, as you mentioned, Harvard being forced to ban foreign students. That had a temporary reprieve when the US judge said that the students will not be banned. And then another chapter has been added to the whole saga when these reports are coming in saying that the visa application process has been halted for now.
Right, Vishal. Thank you so much for getting us all these details, as the American dream of students seems to sort of be in the limbo after the Trump administration has now paused new student visas globally. Remember, this is not limited to India, but it will impact a certain section of the society which aspires to head to the United States for their higher education. Now shifting focus slightly, where Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, while speaking at the NDTV Education Conclave, spoke on the three-language policy and the NEP. The minister said that the 3 states that are opposing are doing so for political gains and in the process depriving children of their rights. Mr. Pradhan also emphasized that multilingualism only enhances employability and that there is no imposition of any language under the NEP. Let's listen in what he said.
देखो, 3 राज्य एक राजनीतिक कारण से एक पोजीशनिंग किए हैं। मैं बिल्कुल स्पष्टता के साथ कह रहा हूँ, जिम्मेवारी के साथ कह रहा हूँ, तीनों के विरोध के कारण अलग अलग है। तमिलनाडु के कुछ कारण है, केरला के कुछ कारण है और बंगाल के कुछ कारण अलग है। तमिलनाडु के बारे में अब कहे, मैं पिछले बार जब संसद चल रही थी, मैंने तथ्य संसद के सामने रखा। जो लोग तथाकथित 3 लैंग्वेज फार्मूला को विरोध करते हैं और हिंदी इम्पोजिशन हो जाएगा ऐसे डर पैदा करवाते हैं, उनको मैंने पॉलिसी के बारे में स्पष्टता दिया है। एनईपी कहीं नहीं कहा है कि हिंदी ही भाषा होगी। आपका विरोध है कि हम 2 लैंग्वेज फार्मूला लगाते, 3 लैंग्वेज नहीं लगाएंगे। आपके राज्य में लग रहा है। मैं फिर कह रहा हूँ, तमिलनाडु की प्रशासन को मेरा ये अनुरोध रहेगा, आपकी तमिल बोर्ड की स्कूल में तमिल पढ़ाया जा रहा है, अच्छी बात है। आप इंग्लिश भी पढ़ा रहे हो, बहुत बढ़िया बात है। आप तेलुगु भी पढ़ा रहे हो, आप बहुत बढ़िया बात है। उसको लिख के देने में क्या आपत्ति है आपको? हम तो कहीं नहीं कह रहे कि हिंदी ही लिखो, 3 भाषा में आपका हिंदी ही होना चाहिए, हम तो कहीं नहीं कहा है, पॉलिसी ऐसा नहीं कहता है।
Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan has said NEP is not imposing Hindi, but learning an additional language, any language, will only increase the employability of students. And parties like DMK, he alleges, you are doing political positioning to build a kind of a Hindi versus Tamil narrative.
See, first thing he must understand is that our system of education, our syllabus, makes the Tamil Nadu state as the #1 state in terms of education. Why should we change is the one question. Where NEP is in force, what is the state of those states where and what is their position in the All India ranking?
Learning an additional language?
Not necessary. We have a 2-language formula as a bill passed in the state legislature way back in 1967, and there was no demand from the people of Tamil Nadu to change it so far. We give them noon meal scheme. We give them morning breakfast. Now we have started. So we are making children, even the poorest of poor children, to study. So that our system has been successful. We want our children to learn our language, that's all.
Their argument is you are denying the poor children who study in government schools, to who you offer free education. You're denying them the opportunity to learn a new language, while affluent students who go to private schools, they are able to.
Let them give free education in the CBSE schools. Who stopped them?
Now, it's been a month since the heinous Pahalgam attack, and Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah is visiting the affected sites to express solidarity with the residents of Pahalgam. In an exclusive chat after the special cabinet meeting that was held, CM Omar also spoke to NDTV and urged people to return to the region for tourism in a bid to connect with people and counter terrorism. Listen in to an exclusive conversation from the excerpt.
Well, it was most unusual cabinet meeting in Jammu and Kashmir, away from the state capital, Srinagar or Jammu. A cabinet meeting was held in Pahalgam in the backdrop of recent horrible terror attack at Baisaran. I'm here at Betav Valley, and you can see Chief Minister Omar Abdullah is here. Omar Sahab, first visiting Pahalgam, now Betav Valley, and this valley is named after Betav film which was shot in 1980s. So what message first the this cabinet meeting, now visiting to these places which were closed for last 1 month after the attack?
It's been a difficult situation. It's also we also have to tread cautiously, because while it's important that gradually tourism revives in Jammu and Kashmir, and particularly in Kashmir Valley, we don't want to give this impression that we are callous, or that the fact that 26 people lost their lives on the 22nd of April doesn't matter to us. Of course it matters to us. But it's also a time when we must start looking to the future. We must start seeing how we can begin to normalize the situation in the valley, and how places like Pahalgam, Betab Valley can reopen. So the cabinet meeting was about a number of things, but primarily it was about expressing solidarity with the people of Pahalgam, with the people of Jammu and Kashmir, particularly with the people of Kashmir who in one voice came out and condemned violence, condemned terror, condemned the killings of innocent people. And it's also about looking to the future, looking to restore and revive tourism. The valley, the place where we're sitting now, Betab Valley, normally this should have been full. Normally there shouldn't have been place for you and me to sit. Normally there you would have heard the sound of children running, playing in the stream, playing on the zip line at the back. Right now it's empty.
But isn't this, and wasn't this an effort actually to restore the confidence when you came here? Pahalgam held this meeting, and you're also meeting the stakeholders. And I also saw some of the tourists visiting here, though some of them were disappointed that these parks are still closed.
No, I can understand their disappointment, and that's actually why I'm here. We want that some of the destinations that were closed in the immediate aftermath of the attack in Baisaran, they should now start opening. And that's what we're working on. So yes, part of it is a a confidence boosting measure. And part of it is designed to show that Kashmir is open again.
And when we have a cabinet meeting of the elected government here in Pahalgam, clearly cabinet meeting in a normal state would be showing the hard power of the government. Look, we're here, we will crush you. But when this elected government doesn't have a control over the security or the law and order, so is this meeting actually show the resolve of the people, elected representatives, that we are here, it is the people's message, not the message of the state or the hard power?
Well, it's actually to reinforce the message of the people. And the people's message was soft power. The way in which the people came out and condemned violence, the way in which the people of Kashmir showed solidarity with those who lost their lives in the attack here, that was part of that. That was soft power. So yes, what we're doing here is not, we're not muscle flexing, we're not trying to convey a hard image. We're trying to show that this is a government of the people. It's a government that's concerned with the welfare of the people. It's a government that wants Jammu and Kashmir, and particularly Kashmir, to normalize now. And we want to begin to welcome guests back to the valley.
Now, the fight between US President Donald Trump and Harvard University is only escalating further. This after the United States government sent a letter to the federal agencies asking them to cancel $100 million worth of federal government contract to the university. Now, the government has also urged the agencies to find alternative vendors. In fact, the federal agencies are now required to respond with a list of contract cancellations by June 6th. Remember, this comes after the Trump administration had barred Harvard University's ability to enroll international students, citing political bias and failure to crack down on anti-Semitism.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
More news that matters.
Big exclusive. Tulsi Gabbard gunned down by Pakistan-backed cowards.
When you interact with people on ground, you're able to reflect their sentiments much better.
More debates that shake the system. More exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Not just another prime time. It's a prime time that's unmissable.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever.
Language row erupts after actor Kamal Hassan says Kannada was born out of Tamil. Pro-Kannada protesters threatened to boycott his film. Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan at NDTV Education Conclave says that states not being forced to teach Hindi, even as DMK hits back at centre, calling the NEP an eyewash. 1 month after the heinous Pahalgam terror attack, Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah speaks exclusively to NDTV. CM Omar expresses solidarity with residents of Pahalgam and urges people to visit the region without fear. President Murmu presented the Padma Awards to the recipients across a diverse range of fields at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, from public policy to literature to folk music and a whole lot more. Now, the impact and success of Operation Sindoor has come to light now via the high-resolution satellite images which show how Pakistan's Murid base was attacked by the Indian Air Force. On the broadcast, I'm joined by Vishnu Shom to get us more details. Vishnu, what is the significance of Pakistan's Murid base firstly, and what has been the extent of the damage to the base, as you can sort of tell us through the high-resolution images that we've been able to access?
Explain what we have on our screens now. This is fresh evidence which has come of the impact of India's strikes during Operation Sindoor. What you're now seeing is an image from the 10th of May, and we've just got it about 10 minutes back. So we are working on these images, but these are just preliminary images. We've got many more. This is a major building at the Murid Air Base. The Murid Air Base is one of the most important air bases of the Pakistan Air Force. There are multiple squadrons of fighter aircraft which are frequently deployed over there. And what we've circled over here now, and we've got the before images and the after images. These after images of the 10th of May clearly show you that there are holes on the roof. So this actually goes to prove that India did in fact strike in these buildings, and the damage inside would be considerable, whether this was a missile strike or, from the looks of it, possibly a drone strike, since the impact points are somewhat smaller. It's something we need to look at. Let's go on to the next image that we have as well. This is what I was talking about. Do we have the next image with the crater at Murid Air Base? We're just going to go across to one more image, which is about to be loaded up now on our screens. And that's going to show you an image of what I believe is a missile strike, a large explosion, and a crater which has been formed. So can we have that image up, please? Do we have the image?
We're reflecting it, Vishnu.
All right, we are yet to get that image, but we will have these all out on NDTV shortly. This is just the first image. We've got several before and after images of the strike. This is fresh, high-resolution satellite imagery, which goes to show the extent of India's strikes during Operation Sindoor.
Vishnu, does this also sort of help us understand by means of the operation as well, as you mentioned, was it like an intentional strike to the air bases, and was it Murid base just one of the many other air bases that was targeted by the Indian Air Force as well?
The Air Force, as you are aware, did strike many Pakistani Air Force bases, whether it was Sargodha, it was Rahim Yar Khan, whether it was Sukkur, whether it was Murid over here, and the Noor Khan Air Base as well, Skardu also. So this is just one fresh new image, and and we will try and bring you the other images that we have, because they are quite telling. They do show explosions as well. But this is important because this is a key operational building of the Murid Air Base. It has been penetrated. The roof has been penetrated by drones or Indian weapons, and there would be considerable damage inside. The other pictures show a large explosion site near what appear to be hangars. If there were aircraft under those hangars, they would certainly have been damaged as well.
Right, Vishnu.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about this particular image that we have on the screen. You can see a large crater point, and these are images which come from Maxar. We should have that logo up as well, but you can see a large circle, right, which shows an explosion point, a crater towards the middle of the image. And that is an area which I believe was struck by a large Indian munition. We leave it at this. These are the only two images we've been able to process in the last 15 minutes. But NDTV.com will have a lot of this, and we'll come up with new reports on NDTV 24/7 as well.
Right, Vishnu. Thank you so much. We'll keep coming to you for getting more insights as to what the high-resolution satellite images have revealed, more so about Operation Sindoor and the Indian Air Force's defense capabilities, as they struck very capable strikes at the airbase in Murid. Vishnu, can I just
add to what I was trying to say? we've actually got that circle now finally. And you can see that particular area is a large crater, and that small structure, the rectangular structure, if it is a hangar or a shelter rather for aircraft or anything else, then anything inside that would likely have been damaged quite severely. This is just fresh evidence of the strikes which have taken place. Back to you.
Thanks, Vishnu. Thank you so much for shedding light on what the satellite images have revealed more about Operation Sindoor and the way Indian Air Force very ably was able to sort of target the airbase in Pakistan. Now, shifting focus to the language issue, it seems to not end anytime soon. This time, actor Kamal Haasan has sparked a controversy. This after he said that Kannada was born out of Tamil. Now, following his comments, pro-Kannada groups have slammed the actor's statement and even threatened to boycott his films. Let's listen in to what the actor actually had to say.
இது அந்த ஊரில் இருக்கும் என் குடும்பம். அதனால தான் அவர் இங்கே வந்திருக்காரு. அதனால தான் நான் பேச்சை ஆரம்பிக்கும் பொழுது நான் உயிரே உறவே தமிழே என்று ஆரம்பித்தேன். அதில் தமிழிலிருந்து பிறந்தது தான் உங்கள் பாஷையும். அதனால் நீங்களும் அதில் உட்படுவீர்கள்.
ಇತ್ತೀಚೆಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕನ್ನಡಕ್ಕಿಂತ ತಮಿಳೇ ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠ, ತಮಿಳು ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಬಂದಿರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅನೇಕ ಹೇಳಿಕೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕನ್ನಡದ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದರ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಇವತ್ತು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಕ್ಷಣಾ ವೇದಿಕೆ ತೀವ್ರವಾಗಿ ಎಚ್ಚರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಪಾದನೆ ಬೇಕು, ನಿಮಗೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಓಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕನ್ನಡದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅವಹೇಳನೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ. ಇವತ್ತು ಇಬ್ಬೂಸ್ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣ ಮಂಟಪದಲ್ಲಿ ತಗ್ಗು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಪ್ರಚಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಾವಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಮಷಿಯನ್ನು ಬಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಕ್ಷಣಾ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಸಿದ್ಧವಾಗಿ ಬರುವುದರ ಮುಂಚೆ ನೀವು ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಕಾಲ್ಕಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಎಚ್ಚರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕನ್ನಡದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ತೀವ್ರವಾದ ಹೋರಾಟ ಮತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸಿನಿಮಾವನ್ನು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಿಂದ ಬ್ಯಾನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಎಚ್ಚರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ.
We witnessed a round of protests by pro-Kannada groups who tore the poster of his upcoming movie. They also, of course, threatened that they wanted to actually smear black ink on Kamal Haasan, but he didn't come at that event. They've now even said that if he continues to make any sort of statements where they feel that he's letting down or insulting the language of Kannada or Kannadigas in any manner, they will also ban his movies. What the message has come in from some of the pro-Kannada leaders like Praveen Shetty. Now this, of course, is during the promotion of his recent movie where actor Shiv Aroor was also there. He was speaking to him, and at that point in time, one particular statement that he's made where he tells Shiv Aroor that your language was also born out of Tamil. Now that is something that has not gone on too well with pro-Kannada activists who feel that here he has tried to put Tamil above Kannada. So it is, of course, another language issue that is really emanating from Karnataka. How things will pan out, whether Kamal Haasan will want to respond to this, whether this will spiral into another controversy. Now that is something that remains to be seen.
Now staying on Karnataka, where a shocking case has come to light from Mangaluru, where a person died after a sword attack, while another is undergoing treatment and is fighting for his life. The incident occurred at Kambodi Kalpane and Bantwal of Dakshin Kannada district, and the authorities have now issued prohibitory orders till May 30th is what we are learning. My colleague Deepak gets more details.
Has been synonymous with communal murders. This is not something that the people of Mangaluru, the people of Karnataka or anywhere in the country would like for a district to become synonymous with something like this. But unfortunately, over the years, we've seen political murders, we've seen communal murders take place here. We've last month itself witnessed tense atmosphere here after 2 murders took place, 2 people from 2 different faiths. Now, while things seem to be pretty normal and everything was under control, this murder has once again, built a lot of tension in the area. The prohibitory orders, like you said, have been already put to the fore. At this point in time, the family members, the relatives are all furious at politicians, at the police. They say they should have done a better job. There is also a band call for tomorrow by some of the groups there. We really have to see whether that will take effect. Now, more importantly for the residents locally there, they will hope that peace is restored as soon as possible.
Now, Karnataka BJP MLC Ravi Kumar's comment on an IAS officer has drawn sharp reactions. Now, this after the MLC at a rally in Kalaburgi questioned Fawzia Taranum, the Deputy Commissioner of Kalaburgi, who is from Pakistan. He made these comments during a protest in front of her office. The MLC has since apologized for the comment, but an FIR nevertheless has been registered against him. Meanwhile, the Karnataka government has assured action. Let's listen into some of the reactions that have come on this.
At a recent protest in Kalaburgi, BJP MLC N. Ravi Kumar lashed out at the district administration, alleging bias against the opposition. But what drew outrage was his comment saying the Deputy Commissioner, a serving IAS officer, probably hails from Pakistan.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವರೇನು ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನದಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಅಥವಾ ಇಲ್ಲಿ IAS ಆಫೀಸರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. ಬಹುಶಃ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆಯನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ಅವರು ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನದಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೇನೋ ನಂಗೆ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ.
An FIR has now been registered against Ravi for these comments. Coming under fire, the legislator has claimed it was an emotional outburst and has apologized.
उसने भी ऐसा बोल दिया, ऐसा नहीं बोलना था. भारतीय जनता पार्टी एक रेस्पॉन्सिबल सेंट्रल रूलिंग पार्टी होकर हमारे तरफ से ऐसा स्टेटमेंट आना ठीक नहीं है. मैं इसलिए मैं क्या इमोशनली बात किया हूँ उस पर मैं क्षमा मांगता हूँ.
The BJP, however, is accusing the Congress government of vendetta politics.
In a political speeches, many a times, leaders speak so many things. When they speak, one or two words here and there also will go. Is sometimes a person who utters the word, immediately if you take an excuse, so you have to leave it up. He is not told anything about atrocity words.
IAS officers, association and lot of officers met me this morning. They are shocked. A very clean, integrity officer, a woman. This is the respect they are showing to a woman officers. The government will take action, and I seek an explanation from the BJP president of and the central ministers on this.
The Deputy Chief Minister has now asked the BJP to introspect on their statements. Despite an apology that came in from the BJP MLC, the politics over the matter continues. But the larger question here is, what is going to be done about the political decorum that needs to be maintained? And more importantly, is there going to be an end to the kind of ill treatment that's meted out to the bureaucrats by politicians? With video journalist Kumar, this is Deepak Bopana for NDTV.
As a former police officer, more than just being part of the BJP, is it not high time, sir, that a message of zero tolerance to such comments is sent in both categorical words and actions? It's time, many would argue, to take serious disciplinary actions against those who make such comments.
Thank you. These kind of sudden emotional outbursts are absolutely not in good taste. The party does not subscribe to such kind of language, especially against officers, and that too against a lady officer known for her integrity and devotion to duty. And we all know that Ms. Fawzia Taranum, the Deputy Commissioner of Kalaburgi, she's an outstanding officer. We have all the respect for her, and these remarks have been made in personal capacity. But nevertheless, Mr. Ravi Kumar, after having made that statement, has realized what he has spoken, and he has unconditionally regretted and apologized to that. But what is unfortunate is that sometimes emotions take over, and one should be a little careful or more careful while speaking about persons. And moreover, what I want to say is that probably he has, in his vocal speech, instead of targeting political personalities, targeting an officer, that too who is not going to reply, is not correct. But he has now apologized, and I think the matter stands closed. And Madam Taranum also has shown extreme dignity and said that my work alone says what kind of officer I am.
Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, while speaking at the NDTV Education Conclave, spoke on the 3-language policy as well as the NEP. Now, the minister said that the 3 states that are opposing it are doing so for political gains and depriving children of their rights. Mr. Pradhan emphasized that multilingualism only enhances employability and that there is no imposition of any language under the NEP. Let's listen in to what he said.
देखो, 3 राज्य एक राजनीतिक कारण से एक पोजीशनिंग किए हैं। मैं बिल्कुल स्पष्टता के साथ कह रहा हूं, जिम्मेवारी के साथ कह रहा हूं, तीनों की विरोध के कारण अलग अलग है। तमिलनाडु के कुछ कारण है, केरला के कुछ कारण है और बंगाल के कुछ कारण अलग है। तमिलनाडु के बारे में अब कहे, मैं पिछले बार जब संसद चल रही थी, मैंने तथ्य संसद के सामने रखा। जो लोग तथाकथित 3 लैंग्वेज फार्मूला को विरोध करते हैं और हिंदी इम्पोजिशन हो जाएगा ऐसे डर पैदा करवाते हैं, उनको मैंने पॉलिसी के बारे में स्पष्टता दिया है। एनईपी कहीं नहीं कहा है कि हिंदी ही भाषा होगी। आपका विरोध है कि हम 2 लैंग्वेज फार्मूला लगा दे, 3 लैंग्वेज नहीं लगाएंगे। आपके राज्य में लग रहा है। मैं फिर कह रहा हूं, तमिलनाडु की प्रशासन को मेरा ये अनुरोध रहेगा, आपकी तमिल बोर्ड की स्कूल में तमिल पढ़ाया जा रहा है, अच्छी बात है। आप इंग्लिश भी पढ़ा रहे हो, बहुत बढ़िया बात है। आप तेलुगु भी पढ़ा रहे हो, आप बहुत बढ़िया बात है। उसको लिख के देने में क्या आपत्ति है आपको? हम तो कहीं नहीं कह रहे कि हिंदी ही लिखो। 3 भाषा में आपका हिंदी ही होना चाहिए, हम तो कहीं नहीं कहा है, पॉलिसी ऐसा नहीं कहता है।
Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan has said NEP is not imposing Hindi, but learning an additional language, any language, will only increase the employability of students. And parties like DMK, he alleges, you are doing political positioning to build a kind of a Hindi versus Tamil narrative.
See, first thing he must understand is that our system of education, our syllabus, makes the Tamil Nadu state as the #1 state in terms of education. Why should we change is the one question. Where NEP is in force, what is the state of those states where and what is their position in the All India ranking?
Learning an additional language?
Not necessary. We have a 2-language formula as a bill passed in the state legislature way back in 1967, and there was no demand from the people of Tamil Nadu to change it so far. We give them noon meal scheme. We give them morning breakfast. Now we have started. So we are making children, even the poorest of poor children, to study. So that our system has been successful. We want our children to learn our language, that's all.
Their argument is you are denying the poor children who study in government schools to who you offer free education. You're denying them the opportunity to learn a new language, while affluent students who go to private schools, they are able to.
Let them give free education in the CBSE schools. Who stopped them?
Now, it's been a month since the heinous Pahalgam attack, and Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah is visiting the region to express solidarity with the residents of Pahalgam. In an exclusive conversation after the special cabinet meet, Chief Minister Omar spoke to NDTV as well as urged the people to return to the region for tourism in a bid to connect people with one another and counter terrorism. Listen in to an excerpt of the conversation.
Well, it was most unusual cabinet meeting in Jammu and Kashmir, away from the state capital, Srinagar or Jammu. A cabinet meeting was held in Pahalgam in the backdrop of recent horrible terror attack at Baisaran. I'm here at Betav Valley, and you can see Chief Minister Omar Abdullah is here. Omar Sahab, first visiting Pahalgam, now Betav Valley, and this valley is named after Betav film which was shot in 1980s. So what message first this cabinet meeting, now visiting to these places which were closed for last 1 month after the attack?
It's been a difficult situation. It's also we also have to tread cautiously, because while it's important that gradually tourism revives in Jammu and Kashmir, and particularly in Kashmir Valley, we don't want to give this impression that we are callous, or that the fact that 26 people lost their lives on the 22nd of April doesn't matter to us. Of course it matters to us. But it's also a time when we must start looking to the future. We must start seeing how we can begin to normalize the situation in the valley, and how places like Pahalgam, Betab Valley can reopen. So the cabinet meeting was about a number of things, but primarily it was about expressing solidarity with the people of Pahalgam, with the people of Jammu and Kashmir, particularly with the people of Kashmir who sort of in one voice came out and condemned violence, condemned terror, condemned the killings of innocent people. And it's also about looking to the future, looking to restore and revive tourism. I mean, the valley, the place where we're sitting now, Betab Valley, normally this should have been full. Normally there shouldn't have been place for you and me to sit. Normally there you would have heard the sound of children running, playing in the stream, playing on the zip line at the back. Right now it's empty.
But isn't this and wasn't this an effort actually to restore the confidence when you came here? Pahalgam held this meeting, and you're also meeting the stakeholders. And I also saw some of the tourists visiting here, though some of them were disappointed that these parks are still closed.
No, I can understand their disappointment, and that's actually why I'm here. We want that some of the destinations that were closed in the immediate aftermath of the attack in Baisaran, they should now start opening. And that's what we're working on. So yes, part of it is a sort of a confidence boosting measure. And part of it is designed to show that Kashmir is open again.
And when we have a cabinet meeting of the elected government here in Pahalgam, clearly cabinet meeting in a normal state would be showing the hard power of the government. Look, we're here, we will crush you. But when this elected government doesn't have a control over the security or the law and order, so is this meeting actually show the resolve of the people, elected representatives, that we are here, it is the people's message, not the message of the state or the hard power?
Well, it's actually to reinforce the message of the people. And the people's message was soft power. The way in which the people came out and condemned violence, the way in which the people of Kashmir showed solidarity with those who lost their lives in the attack here. That was part of that. I mean, that was soft power. So yes, I mean, what we're doing here is not, we're not muscle flexing. We're not trying to convey a hard image. We're trying to show that this is a government of the people. It's a government that's concerned with the welfare of the people. It's a government that wants Jammu and Kashmir, and particularly Kashmir, to normalize now. And we want to begin to sort of welcome guests back to the valley.
Time for a short commercial break. Lots more news and updates coming up on the other side. Stay tuned.
In the last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Denzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Now, the fight between the United States President Donald Trump and Harvard University is only escalating further. This after the US government sent a letter to the federal agencies asking them to cancel $100 million worth of federal government contract with the university. Now, the government has also urged the agencies to find alternative vendors. In fact, the federal agencies are now required to respond with a list of contract cancellations by June 6th. Remember, this comes after the Trump administration on Thursday had barred Harvard University's ability to enroll international students, citing political bias and failure of the institutes to crack down on the rise of anti-Semitism. Meanwhile, Harvard has stated that the actions of the government infringe on free speech and their academic missions.
And with that, I'll give the mic to Leo.
Now shifting our focus to the Padma Awards, which was presented by President Draupadi Murmu today at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Now this year, the government had announced 139 Padma Awards, which comprised 7 Padma Vibhushan, 19 Padma Bhushan and 113 Padma Shri Awards. Meanwhile, NDTV's Arun Singh spoke to veteran actor Ashok Saraf, renowned for the show Hum Panch, and Paralympian gold medalist Harvinder Singh. Listen in.
मेरे साथ मिस्टर अशोक सराफ, बहुत बहुत बधाइयाँ आपको सर पद्मा अवार्ड के लिए। कैसा महसूस हो रहा है? और एक आपके इतने काम आपने किया है, इतनी मूवीज़, इतना थिएटर आपने किया है, एक याद जो आज आपको आ रही है कोई एक काम की, तो क्या होगी?
वो बहुत सी काम की है इससे मैंने।
ऑफ कोर्स
ये इसका ही रिजल्ट ये है ना अवार्ड।
बिल्कुल
इतना किया है, बहुत 250 फिल्म हो गए टोटल। 10 फिल्में 30 फिल्में की है, 300 फिल्में की है मैंने
जी।
और टीवी के लिए मैं कह रही जो एक जो किया तो वो कोई भूल नहीं सकता, वो हम 5।
बिल्कुल मैं अपने कैमरा पर्सन से ये बात कर रहा था कि हम 5 की याद हम सबके दिलों में इतनी ज़्यादा ताज़ा है।
सफिशिएंट है हिंदी के लिए मैंने जो किया, बस एक ही किया, लेकिन वो इतना तगड़ा था कि पूछो।
और सर पहला रिएक्शन क्या था जब आपको पता चला कि आप ये अवार्ड जो है वो जीत पाने वाले हैं?
अच्छा रिएक्शन था, क्योंकि क्या इन लोगों ने कहीं तो रजिस्टर किया।
अच्छा,
मैंने जो काम किया होगी उसको रजिस्टर होना, किसी को समझना कि ये कुछ कर रहा है, ये बहुत बड़ी बात है मेरे लिए, और वो वैसे होगी, इसलिए मैं खुश हूँ।
बहुत बहुत बधाई सर, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। कैमरा पर्सन अश्विनी मेहरा के साथ अरुण सिंह, NDTV के लिए। 2024 पेरिस पैरालंपिक्स में गोल्ड विनर हरविंदर सिंह, बहुत बहुत स्वागत आपका NDTV पर। तो सबसे पहले आई नो ये बहुत ऑब्वियस क्वेश्चन है और इरिटेट हो जाता है कई बार जो सेलिब्रिटीज सुनते ना, ये कैसा लग रहा है आपको? जी। तो आपको आई एम श्योर बहुत बार ये पूछा जा चुका है, लेकिन फिर भी मैं ये ऑब्वियस सवाल पूछूंगा कि आपको कैसा लग रहा है?
जी, वो अच्छा लग रहा है, मज़ा आ रहा है और मेडल जीता देश के लिए और अभी पद्मश्री अवार्ड मिल रहा है, तो सच में बहुत खुशी है।
आप अपने परिवार के साथ यहाँ पर हैं, उनकी क्या भावनाएं हैं और पहला रिएक्शन आपका क्या था जब आपको पता चला कि आपको ये अवार्ड मिल रहा?
जी, पहले जब पता चला, जो 26 जनवरी के दिन अनाउंस हुए थे, तो फैमिली को बताया तो बहुत खुशी थी। और एक खुशी तो ये थी कि 4th हाईएस्ट सिविलियन अवार्ड मिल रहा है, और दूसरी खुशी थी कि फैमिली को राष्ट्रपति भवन ले जाने का मौका मिलेगा। थोड़ा सा वरीड था कि कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि मुझे वाइफ और पापा में से किसी एक को चूज़ करना पड़े ले जाने के लिए, लेकिन लकीली वो दोनों साथ में जा रहे हैं। तो उनको इस बात की भी खुशी है कि अवार्ड भी मिल रहा है और हम भी साथ जा रहे हैं।
और उनका क्या रिएक्शन था पहला, चाहे आपके फादर का या आपकी वाइफ का? कोई ऐसी मोमेंट जो आप हमारे साथ शेयर कर सकते हैं जो स्पेशल थी आपके?
जी, क्योंकि मैं दिल्ली में था, वो घर पे थे, लेकिन फ़ोन पे बात हुई तो वो भी बहुत खुश थे। और ओबीसी जैसा हर माँ बाप का सपना होता है कि बेटा मेडल जीते, अवार्ड मिले, तो शुक्राना कि थैंक यू भगवान का जो इस मुकाम तक पहुँचे, और भारत सरकार का माननीय राष्ट्रपति जी का धन्यवाद किया। तो बहुत खुश थे वो भी उस टाइम।
Time for a short break. Lots more news and updates coming up on the other side. Stay tuned.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
More news that
Hello ladies and gentlemen, you're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Priyanka Das and we have an interesting mix of stories for you, including some exclusive conversations lined up. But first up, a quick check of the headlines. Language row erupts after actor Kamal Haasan says Kannada was born out of Tamil. Pro-Kannada protesters threaten to boycott his films. Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan at NDTV Education Conclave says that states not being forced to teach Hindi, even as DMK hits back at centre, calling the NEP as an eyewash. 1 month after the heinous Pahalgam terror attack, Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah spoke exclusively to NDTV and urged the people to return to Pahalgam without fear. President Murmu presented Padma Awards to the recipients across a diverse range of fields at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, from public policy, literature to folk music and sports. There seems to be no end to the language issue in the country. This time, actor Kamal Haasan is sparked a controversy after saying that Kannada was born out of Tamil. Now, following his comments, pro-Kannada groups have slammed the actor's statement and threatened to boycott his films. Let's listen in to what the actor said.
இது அந்த ஊரில் இருக்கும் என் குடும்பம். அதனால தான் அவர் இங்கே வந்திருக்காரு. அதனால தான் நான் பேச்சை ஆரம்பிக்கும் பொழுது நான் உயிரே உறவே தமிழே என்று ஆரம்பித்தேன். அதில் தமிழிலிருந்து பிறந்தது தான் உங்கள் பாஷையும். அதனால் நீங்களும் அதில் உட்படுவீர்கள்.
ಕಮಲಾಸನ್ ಅವರು ಇತ್ತೀಚೆಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕನ್ನಡಕ್ಕಿಂತ ತಮಿಳೇ ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠ, ತಮಿಳು ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಬಂದಿರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅನೇಕ ಹೇಳಿಕೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕನ್ನಡದ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದರ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಇವತ್ತು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಕ್ಷಣಾ ವೇದಿಕೆ ತೀವ್ರವಾಗಿ ಎಚ್ಚರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಪಾದನೆ ಬೇಕು, ನಿಮಗೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಓಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕನ್ನಡದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅವಹೇಳನೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ. ಇವತ್ತು ಇಬ್ಬೂಸ್ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣ ಮಂಟಪದಲ್ಲಿ ತಗ್ಗು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಪ್ರಚಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಾವಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಮಷಿಯನ್ನು ಬಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಕ್ಷಣಾ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಸಿದ್ಧವಾಗಿ ಬರುವುದರ ಮುಂಚೆ ನೀವು ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಕಾಲ್ಕಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಎಚ್ಚರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಕನ್ನಡದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ತೀವ್ರವಾದ ಹೋರಾಟ ಮತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸಿನಿಮಾವನ್ನು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಿಂದ ಬ್ಯಾನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಎಚ್ಚರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ.
We witnessed a round of protests by pro-Kannada groups who tore the poster of his upcoming movie. They also, of course, threatened that they wanted to actually smear black ink on Kamal Haasan, but he didn't come at that event. They've now even said that if he continues to make any sort of statements where they feel that, you know, he's letting down or insulting the language of Kannada or Kannadigas in any manner, they will also ban his movies. What the message has come in from some of the pro-Kannada leaders like Praveen Shetty. Now this, of course, is during the promotion of his recent movie where actor Shiv Aroor was also there. He was speaking to him, and at that point in time, one particular statement that he's made where he tells Shiv Aroor that your language was also born out of Tamil. Now that is something that has not gone down too well with pro-Kannada activists who feel that here he has tried to put Tamil above Kannada. So it is, of course, another language issue that is really emanating from Karnataka. How things will pan out, whether Kamal Haasan will want to respond to this, whether this will spiral into another controversy. Now that is something that remains to be seen.
Now, the impact and success of Operation Sindoor has come to light now via the high-resolution satellite images, which show how Pakistan's Murid base was attacked by the Indian Air Force. On the broadcast, I'm joined by my colleague Vishnu Shom to get more details. Vishnu, what have you been able to gather from these high-resolution images? What's your assessment?
Well, this is extremely important. This is extremely important in terms of what we are looking at on the screen right now. This is a major command and control center, a major building which is there at the Murid Air Base. And the Murid Air Base has got certain holes on the roof that you can actually see right now. This is from the 10th of May post the Indian Air Force attacks to Murid which have taken place. This may have been caused possibly by drones because the size of the gaps on the roof are considerably small. This is further evidence of the success of India's strikes on several Pakistani air bases, which is why we are broadcasting them, and because this is very big news. Let's move to the other image because we've now got a few more details coming in off the other image, which shows a large crater that you can see. But what you can't see as clearly, and we are working on these images, is that this blast of what appears to be a missile took place very close, possibly to the entry to an underground storage facility. We've got international OSINT experts working on the imagery to tell us what exactly the Indian Air Force may have been trying to strike over here. But this is a very significant strike and a very significant image which points to the success of India's operations during Operation Sindoor, military strikes during Operation Sindoor, which ultimately got Pakistan to come onto the ceasefire table and telling India that, look, they didn't want to escalate any further.
Right, Vishnu. Thank you so much for getting us those details and shedding some insights into the high-resolution satellite images that we've been able to source and which potentially significantly sort of display the success of Operation Sindoor and the Indian Armed Forces as it was able to target the airbase Murid in Pakistan. Now, a shocking case has come to light from Karnataka's Mangaluru, where a person died after a sword attack, while another is undergoing treatment and is fighting for his life, in fact. Now, the incident occurred at Kambori Kalpane in the Bantwal district of Dakshin Kannada, and now authorities have also issued prohibitory orders till May 30th to ensure that there is no escalation of the law and order situation in the area. My colleague Deepak gets more details.
Bengaluru has been synonymous with, communal murders. This is not something that the people of Mangaluru or the people of Karnataka or anywhere in the country would like for a district to become synonymous with something like this. But unfortunately, over the years, we've seen political murders, we've seen communal murders take place here. We've last month itself witnessed tense atmosphere here after two murders took place, two people from two different faiths. Now, while things seem to be pretty normal and everything was under control, this murder has once again, built a lot of tension in the area. The prohibitory orders, like you said, have been already